Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of FPL BlackBox. I feel completely overwhelmed with everything that's been happening tonight. I don't know if I'm happy, sad, confused, angry. Van Dijk scored in the last minute, but I got, 80 something points for my triple captain. God knows what's going on, but I'm joined by Tom Freeman to help me make sense of it all. How are you, Tom?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Az. Thanks for me having on. We've been trying to get this going for a while, so yeah, good to finally be here. Big fan of the show, and yeah, looking forward to it.
I don't know why it is. Every time I message you, you seem to be off. Because I message you on Slack, because we both work for Scout. So I message you, do you want to come on Blackbox? Don't hear from you. I think, Tom doesn't want to come on. And then the next day, you're like, oh no, I want to. I'm like, nope, too late. I found someone else. But we finally.
That was the case last week with Andy. But yeah, no, it's good to be on, and yeah, a good chance to dive into FPL. It's been an eventful night, hasn't it?
It has. We've got loads to talk about. We've got a double and a blank game week coming up all in one in 27. So we've got enough to talk about that. I just want to give you a proper introduction though, because you're on Twitter and you're quite active on Twitter, but there might be some people out there who don't know where you are. You are obviously deputy editor for Fantasy Football Scout. So we work together. We are friends in work and in real life as well. But not just that, Tom. You have one of the most unbelievable FPL records, I think, of anyone. Just to go through your seasons on the screen. I mean, you've got 5 top 1K finishes. Your worst ever finish in 12 years is 181,000. That's the only time you've ever finished outside of the top 100K. You've had finishes of 214, 682, 624, 759, 779. Last year, we were both doing absolutely terribly, weren't we? We were locked in a battle as to who could finish in the top 100K. And you managed it, 88,000. I didn't. But my word, you've got to be very, very proud of the record you've got on FPL, right?
Yeah, I mean, you don't really think about it too much, to be honest. You just kind of take season by season. I mean, I think what that record shows you there is how much harder it's getting the game. I used to be able to rack up those top 1Ks pretty easily. And now, I think we surpassed 9 million players overnight in the game, didn't we now, or something like that. So it's getting harder, but yeah, happy with it. I mean, it would be great to add another top finish to that. But let's see what happens in the running and see if we can get another top 10K.
What's your secret, Tom? How'd you do it? How'd you stay this consistent? Come on, this is what people are here for.
I don't know. I mean, I get asked this quite a bit. I mean, I'd love to be able to reel off 3 kind of things which are guarantees for success, but it doesn't work like that. I always say I love planning. I love kind of visualizing where I want my team to be in a few weeks, paying attention to fixture swings and captaincy and things like that. I always give myself time to make decisions. And I like to feel in control. I don't like to be chasing, which is going back to what you were saying then, Az. I mean, it felt like we were both chasing last year, and I don't feel comfortable doing that. I prefer to be higher up, and it's not something which sits naturally with me when I'm chasing, but it's sometimes the way it goes. But yeah, I don't think there's really I can't really kind of give you any kind of specific insight points to achieve a top 10K this way. It's just it's several things.
That's no bloody good, is it, Tom? That's no
Sorry,
good.
It's not what the listeners are after. Just be prepared, and planning is the key thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go. We'll obviously talk through grey heads, great and the good, in a second. See where you stand, kind of in that. Let's just kind of recap the game week so far. So it's hard to do. Obviously, there's bonus points to come in, and I don't know what our ranks are, and there's another game to come tomorrow. So I just kind of grabbed a screenshot about sort of 10 minutes ago. When I grabbed the screenshot, you're on 132 points, which is absolutely mad, really. Ramsdale in goal, Trent, Rudiger, Cancelo, Bowen, Salah triple captain, Coutinho, Rafinha, the Watford double up of King and Dennis, and Harry Kane's in there as well with 15. So yeah, how are you feeling? I mean, you must be happy with the triple captain decision. Were you tempted to wildcard like quite a few other people doing?
No, but I'm in a slightly different position to those guys. I've only got 1 free hit left, and I think the key to that whole kind of strategy and approach was having the 2 free hits, so you could free hit in 27, load up on Liverpool, Arsenal. They obviously blank. So I think that was the key to that approach. I found it quite interesting. Obviously, they're going to be a bit disappointed if you didn't triple captain Salah, but it feels like the people who wildcarded this week, it's not a 1 week thing. It's about the next free hit. It's about building for the doubles, which are happening soon. So it's too early to call whether it's been the right thing to do or the right thing. It's just nice to have a few different strategies thrown into the mix, isn't it? It makes it more interesting for sure. But in terms of my own team, the Salah triple captain kind of came through. But if you look at the rest of the team tonight, it's all been pretty underwhelming, really, especially the strike force. But fortunately, Kane and Dennis did the business at the weekend. So that kind of feels okay. And the less said about King, the better, really. So
the less always said about King. But I think he's been subbed off with a knock or an injury now.
He was on his way anyway, but that would just kind of cement it, I guess. But yeah, it feels okay. I've just got to kind of get through tomorrow night because obviously talking about wild carders, they're probably going in with 6 players tomorrow night from Arsenal and Wolves, and I've just got Ramsdale. So a narrow win for Arsenal or something will probably be good for me.
Because there was a lot of carnage on Friday, wasn't there? When the double game weeks were announced. I mean, a lot of people's you talk about planning. A lot of people's carefully crafted plans were just thrown out the window. Like Mark, for example, wildcarded. I think he did it Saturday morning. He went on a stream Friday night, hadn't even considered it. Saturday morning, decided to do it. And he did it as well. I was on BlackBox with him last week. He never thought about doing it. He was going to take a 16, 20-point hit. And then he wildcarded. I think wildcarders will be happy. They'll be very happy. A lot of them will be very happy with the Van Dijk goal. And Robertson. They probably had some of them. Ben Mee, for example. Veghal's got the goals. Kane, Son. Like I've been. I mean, I triple captained. I put my team up now. I mean, I triple captained Salah. I'm on 117. I've seen people, on wildcards who have beaten that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of the popular picks on those wild cards have done well so far this week, haven't they? So,
Saka as well, obviously got the goal, another game to come.
Yeah, and Son as well got the brace of assists at the weekend, didn't he? So it feels like just if you didn't triple captain, there's obviously some good scores out there, and people have done well off it. So let's see what kind of unfolds over the next few weeks. And obviously they've still got their triple captains to come as well. Liverpool will probably get another double further down the line. So who knows?
Yep. My team's on the screen. I've got Ramsdale in goal, Trent, Cancelo, Dean, Fernandes. I kept on to, got 12 points. Foden, Salah, Bowen, Lacazette, Jimenez, and King. So I took a 4-point hit. I bought in Lacazette and Salah for Jota and someone else who didn't get any points. Who's my other forward? I can't remember. Someone else. They didn't do anything anyway. Antonio. So that was all fine. Got that paid back. Yeah. Livermore on my bench, you.
Same.
Yeah. And the single game week.
Let's just hope he starts this week. We need him. So,
we do. Yeah. This is the time. This is your time, Tino. We need you. But much like you, it was disappointing from the single game week players. I mean, 2 from Dean, 1 from Bowen, 2 from Foden, 1 from Cancelo. They had good fixtures, which is why I didn't want to swap them out really for the likes of Ben Mee and Saka. I thought they could get something from those games and not have to take lots of hits. And they just didn't, which was a shame.
Yeah, and Villa have got the double coming up as well, haven't they? So I can understand why, I bought Coutinho in this week with an eye on that as well. And massively underwhelmed, and Villa have done for a few weeks now, but at least they're in place for that double, which is pretty appealing on paper. So
Yep. Mark's team next. So Mark can't be with us tonight, for anyone wondering. He's having some health issues at the moment. Work is stressing him out, so I'm sure he'd appreciate all your good messages. And Mark, if you're listening, hope you feel better soon, and hopefully we'll get you back on BlackBox soon, because we've had some amazing guests. Tom, you're one of them, but we'd love to do amazing guests and myself or Mark. So hopefully he's back to it soon. So Mark wildcarded last minute. He was on 103 at the time of this screenshot. Then Robertson got the extra assist, which is annoying. But he's got Ramsdale, Trent, Robertson, Tierney, Semedo, Bowen, Son, Saka, Salah, Broja, and Jimenez. So he's got Ramsdale, Semedo, Tierney, Saka, and Jimenez to go. So he's got 5 left. So I think he'll be relatively happy with that.
I mean, it's a nice team, to be fair, and got Brozier in now for some good Southampton fixtures. I'm looking at them myself with a transfer this week. So yeah. I mean, it's a big game tomorrow, isn't it? You know, if one of those teams gets a clean sheet tomorrow with a lot of double Arsenal and a lot of double Wolves and things like that, it'll be a good result for wildcarders, I think.
I think what I'm struggling with is I feel like, because I'm going to wildcard in 28, so next week.
Oh, okay.
But my wildcard team is going to look very similar to Mark's team, I think, or other wildcards. So yeah. I don't like if I've matched wildcard teams with a triple captain, but then they've got the triple captain to play, and I'm going to be getting their team in anyway. Surely that's advantage wildcarders.
Yeah, I mean, if you're wildcarding in 28, I presume you're going to navigate 30 without a free hit, are you, As? Or
that's
you're
the
going
plan.
To try and, yeah,
that's
so the thing is that if you're building a squad with that, and you pick, obviously, players from Wolves, Arsenal are going to be popular picks then, aren't they? Because they play. You're probably going to have a Villa in there. You're probably going to have Rafinha and things like that. So it is a small, if you're going down that route, it is a smaller pool. But the landscape can change pretty quickly. You know, I know that 28 isn't too far away, but, you know, there's still a game week to play in between that. And all it would take is one or two injuries to mix it up a bit, wouldn't it? So
I think I'll swerve Wolves. I think that would be my kind of decision, because I know they've got a decent fixture on, but I do feel the ceiling with them isn't massively high. They tend to win 1-0. You know, they can concede goals. I'm just not convinced. Like, I've got Jimenez, for example. And I've got, like, he gets an assist every now and then. Like, he's not a goal scorer. Like Podence, Neto, these guys aren't reliable. It's at the back I'm looking at, but then, you know, I think like Sace maybe, but I'm not really too inspired by Wolves in general, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, they are good fixtures. It's a good double, isn't it, in 28? It's good. They play in 30. I can see the appeal. But I covered the game for Scout on Sunday against Leicester, and I was a bit underwhelmed by it all, to be honest. I thought Leicester caused them loads of problems at the back. Jimenez, he got the assist from a really nice finish from it was Neves, wasn't it? I think, but yeah, he was kind of in and out of the game a little bit. But yeah, I can see why people have loaded up on it. But yeah, that might be an alternative route for you if you don't go in quite as heavy as the wildcarders have done this week, and try and get your edge that way, maybe.
I think, and I look at like Chelsea, for example. Like wildcarders aren't going to feature Chelsea because they haven't had the games. So the likes of Rudiger, Reece James, if he's back. I was looking at Ziyech as well until his injury last night.
I mean, we've had a few conversations this week, or I've with other people about Chelsea, and I've got Rudiger. I've held him through the club championship and the blank and whatever, and it feel like in a good position now. But it's too soon for Reece James at the moment. We need to see him play, don't we? Ziyech, even before the injury, he did seem to be coming in some form, but whether or not you would say he was nailed or not, I'm not sure you'd go quite that far with it. But yeah, obviously got the knock. We kind of need Mount back, really, don't we, I suppose, because he felt a bit more secure than the others. But
I think Ziyech was approaching nailed on-ness, because, not obviously the fact he's starting most games, it kind of, you know, that's exactly what it means, but his kind of influence on the game had grown so much, being that main creative hub, taking over from Mount, being that kind of source of inspiration. And you look at someone like Lukaku, I mean, you take Ziyech out of that side, that's not going to make Lukaku suddenly a better option, because who's going to get the ball to him? You need someone like Ziyech to create things to make that happen.
My initial thought was in 28, if Chelsea double, then a Kane to Lukaku switch would be something which I could consider. But obviously, you're not doing that now, are you? You know, he's dropped last night, and Havertz came in and gave a pretty good account of himself, to be honest. I do like him. I do like him when he plays up top by himself, and I think he helps the players behind him. And so it wouldn't surprise me if Lukaku doesn't get straight back in now.
No, I mean, you can't have 7 touches in a match for a top 3 side. That is just, I've never seen anything as ridiculous as that. I don't think in my life. You know, the fact that is that the record for the least amount of touches for an outfield player, you might expect that for a Norwich striker or something, but you know, for one of the world's best strikers playing for one of the world's best teams, I mean, it's just absolutely
playing against Palace as well. When they've got a lot of the ball, it's not like they're playing City and they're playing a different tactic. The initiative, they had the initiative in that game, and he still struggled to get into it. So it feels like a bit of a problem for Tuchel, that, doesn't it?
Yep, absolutely crazy. It's great in the chat because you mentioned about people's different strategies. We've got 750 people watching live, so hello to everyone. Hello to everyone listening on the pod. But it's great. There's so many different. Like there's people with 128 with 5 to play. There's some people saying 96 didn't use a chip this week. Okay. You've got wildcarders with scores of around 100. It's such a. It was. I really enjoyed that on Friday because it was carnage, but it was. The planning element really came into it. You had to get your transfer planners out. You had to work out what your chip strategies were. All that kind of stuff. It's great.
And fair play to the people who did do the World Cup, because that strategy had to come together pretty quickly, didn't it? I mean, I was kind of lurking around on Twitter, and I saw Praz come up with his kind of idea pretty soon after those fixtures dropped, and I was like, how have you come up with that so quickly? But then you thought about it, and then people started putting their input into it, and I think it's great for the game. It's boring if we're all doing the same thing. Yeah. So this mixes it up. It makes it more exciting, I think.
It does, absolutely.
It's going to be, I mean, for those who didn't wild card like me, it feels like 27 is damage limitation now with so many free hits around. But we'll have a look at my monstrosity of a team for 27 and a bit and see if we can salvage it. So
we're going to try it. We're going to have a good discussion about free hits. In fact, we'll come to that in a sec. Let me just cover the great and the good. So thank you, Greyhead, again for sending this over to me. So this is what we cover kind of each week. It's not the best managers because I'm on it, but you're on there as well, and Mark's on there too. So that's why it's the great and the good. I'm probably good. You guys are the great. I'm in second though to Fabio. We're both having a good season. Every single manager in the great and the good this week, Captain Salah. Chore captain wise, you can see kind of on the left, only 1, 2, 3, 4, only 5 managers didn't triple captain Salah this week, and those managers that didn't triple captain Salah all wildcarded this week. So it really was the battle of those two chips. Unfortunately for Mark, he slipped to bottom of the great and the good again. So that's probably not affecting his health, to be honest. I know how much Mark puts into these every year. He won't be happy with that. You're comfortably mid-table. You're just behind Let's Talk Andy, ahead of Neil, fellow Scout. Well, you're big rival. You're the main editor of Scout. You'll
beat the boss.
Yeah, beat the boss. So you're just ahead of him. So I heard at Scout, if you win, you take the main editor next year, right? And then he's demoted to deputy. Is that how it works? I assume that's how it works.
Like that. I hope not. Anyway, so I see what Neil does behind the scenes. But I think I've probably reeled in Andy after the triple captain tonight. But obviously he's in a good position tomorrow with a few more players than me. So, I mean, there's a bit of a gap at the top, isn't there? Yourself and Fabio have got a decent lead there, but still loads to play for, isn't there? And still some big swings, I think. So try and reel a few more in gradually.
Do you take much notice of these things? I mean, Mark always talks about how he plays this kind of thing as a mini league, so he does look at rank, but also he's always looking to take, and he looks at what General's doing, for example, and sees he's brought him in, and might even bring in a player to cover him. He has these kind of goals. Are you purely focused on rank, or do you look at this kind of mini league kind of stuff?
I do look at it. I mean, Greyhead does such a great job with this league that, the game week begins and we're getting tweets, and you can, I'm always interested in seeing what other managers do, whether that's Magnus or Zofa or Fabio or people like that. You always have a little dig around and see what people are doing. And I think it's good to have, a few different mini leagues and be competitive. Elite 64 is always when I have a look at the general ones, and this one as well. So, I wouldn't say I kind of react to and make moves based around who's in it. I kind of play my own game, but it's always interesting to have a look at it.
Chicken. Yeah, no, absolutely. In terms of the free hits as well, so there's 15 managers in the great and the good. 5 have already used one of their free hits, yourself included. Did you get much joy out of that chip when you used it in Gameweek 19?
Yeah, that's right. Game week 19. No, it didn't. I think I captained Ronaldo. I think it was away at Newcastle, and it didn't pay off. And there were some good punts on that. I went for Mahrez, who did well, I seem to recall, in the fixture. But generally, it's pretty underwhelming. But it is what it is. You use it, and I've got one left to go now, and so I've just got to kind of work out and try and get a bit more joy out of that now. So.
Are you planning on that for 30?
I'm not at the moment. I'm going to try and get through the next few weeks without any chips, and then head into the finale, the run-in with a wild card, a bench boost, and a free hit in hand. That's the plan anyway. But a lot depends on 30 because we might still get, one extra fixture. I think it's Southampton, Burnley, and if that gets added, then I think I'll be okay. But yeah. If it doesn't, I'm not sure if I fancy free hitting anyway with 3 fixtures on, and I might try and save that one and use it for the run-in, I think.
Yep, nice. Just before we move to the great and the good, just to talk about something I noticed in terms of total transfers. So last week we had on Andy, who has taken a lot of hits. Basically, I think it's had like the third most amount out of all the managers on this list. But you, Tom Freeman, don't know if you even realise this, you've taken the fewest hits of everyone.
Oh, okay.
Minus 16. So you and Zoe both on minus 16. Is that something you do every year? Do you try and take less hits, or is it just kind of this season where you've just found yourself taking less?
I never take many hits. I mean, COVID has kind of changed the landscape a little bit, hasn't it? And it's kind of forced us into sometimes doing it. I sometimes think that is maybe a weakness as me as a manager, is that sometimes this season, when we've had like a late COVID cancellation and we've had to react at short notice and come up with a transfer plan within like an hour before deadline, I'm the type of manager who kind of sometimes errs on the side of caution and thinks, well, if I haven't got enough time to think about this, I'm not going to make a hit. I'm going to kind of hold back. I remember earlier in the season, I think it was a lot of people brought in Foden and Watkins for a hit. Watkins was against Norwich, Foden against Leeds, and it really paid off. And I kind of withheld a little bit, and I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to play it safe. I'm not going to do anything. And it kind of backfired a little bit. But yeah, I am kind of safer, I suppose. I like to plan things like I went back earlier. And so unless you get some unfortunate injuries or suspensions, I generally feel like I can plan well and I don't need to take hits. And points are precious for me. I always think, some people think, oh, it's only a -4. I look at that as a goal from a striker, and I remember how I feel when that player scores that goal, and I don't want those points whipped away from me. So if I can avoid it, I will. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of probably quite normal in terms of total hits for the season. I am pretty safe, I suppose. So.
I feel like that as well. And I always, when I take a hit, I always think, okay, this player's got to score just for me to get those points back, and I think in a double game week like this, you see the potential. If you took a hit, if I'd done a hit for Dean to Ben Mee, for example, which I did briefly think about, but I thought, well, Dean's versus Watford, he's probably going to get 6. He's quite attacking. He could get an assist in that. That's 9. But you look at Ben Mee getting 21 points or whatever it is, and obviously you've got the hindsight of being, I wish I'd done that. But
you might have gone for Tarkowski, who we didn't know was out on the other hand, mightn't you? And okay, he's got the clean sheet tonight, but he missed the weekend with COVID, didn't he? So it can go two ways, can't it? You've got to be pretty fortunate to land on that Ben Mee transfer, though, haven't you? But fair play. Not. I don't mean lucky or anything. It's just gone obviously better than anybody could have imagined, hasn't it? So,
one thing I'm quite proud of on the great and the good, and it will have held now because I've captained the most, the massive score from Sad Triple Captain, is I've now got the most captain points on the great and the good. So. Well even done. When I lose to Fabio, which I'm obviously going to do, I've still got that at the moment. That I've got the most captain points, and I'm quite proud of that because I don't know about you. I always struggle with captaincy. I know a lot of people wish that captaincy wasn't a part of the game, and they wish that it was just their 11 scoring points and stuff. Because the captaincy does feel quite a lot more luck based than some of the other things. Is there any, where do you kind of stand on the kind of captaincy thing? Form, fixtures? Do you look at lots of stats? Do you go with your gut?
I'm kind of fixtures over form all the time, to be honest. That's just the type of manager I am. Look at a lot of stats. I mean, obviously we have to. I do the Captain Sensible article each week, and that is basically
you should be nailing this.
The dates. Well, I tell you what. I mean, on all of those good seasons I've had, it just feels like you nail those captains. And when those big kind of 50-50 call, I mean, going back a few weeks, we had the West Ham double game week, didn't we? When Bowen came through, I went with Antonio on that one. He missed a couple of chances in it. I think Bowen deserved to outscore him, although he was very quiet for the first game in that double. It's little things like that, big swings. And even Salah, going back, I was on the right side of it when he was at Man United earlier on this season. But for people who went Havertz,
don't remind people. I think it's about that.
Yeah, sorry, I won't be invited back on. But yeah, it's decisions like that. That is a good. It wasn't a bad decision going for Havertz at home against Norwich. What was it, 7-0 in that? It's just it's decisions like that, and they're such massive swings. And when you're having a good season, it feels like those things just go for you, but sometimes they don't. And I mean, what are you on captaincy points? Is it 450?
450. So a massive 2 ahead of Fabio on that list.
Yeah. Well, take it. So I'm probably like 40 something behind you, 46 or whatever. So I presume you went Bowen over Antonio a few weeks back, and I think I went for Kane captain over Jota when Jota got the brace against Leicester, and so that and Kane blanked at home against Southampton, and so that's it's decisions which I don't really look back on and think, oh, what have I been doing? It's gone the wrong way with it really.
I think that's why the captaincy I find so frustrating, because you can make perfectly. I mean, I know you can do it with transfers as well, but the captaincy is it's such an easy thing just to switch between players. Like you can be 10 minutes before the deadline and have it on about 4 different players. That's what annoys me is you can be, I was so close. And it's the same with the bench as well. Like when you get your bench wrong, it's like, I know like all the logic was there, but I could have played Livramento this week for those 12 points, but I didn't. Even though like I'm obviously going to play Dean at home to Watford over Livramento, you can't help but be like, but what if I'd just given it a little bit more thought? Maybe if there was something there, I could have done it. But you can beat yourself over a lot of stuff, can't you?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Fine. But I'm kind of glad of those Livramento points on the bench, because I'm hoping that it cements his place for this coming week. If he had put in a terrible performance and they'd conceded, then that would probably worry me a bit more.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So I'm trying to look at the positives there, So
you've got to, Tom. It's all you can do. Right, we've got a lot of stats to get through, as we always do. As Mark likes to say, we dabble in stats. The joke he makes every podcast. I've got to carry on while he's not here. Before we do, though, I want to talk a bit about free hits this week in 27. It seems that everyone's playing their free hit, right? You go on Twitter, everyone's chucked the free hit team. Everyone's free hit team's the same. It's the same players. It's Kane, Son. It's a United midfielder. It's 2 City midfielders. It is all very. There's a real template that's kind of emerged. And I did a stream earlier with Gianni. So obviously we do the scout videos every week. I think the first 3 videos we had were all about free hit teams. So we had it was Irons and Andy. We had TED Talks, Scoutcast, all very focused on free hit stuff. Gianni and I did one. Neither of us wanted free hitting this week.
Okay, right.
And we were talking about the kind of logic of doing it and why people are doing it. And my kind of feelings of it are, if you wildcarded last week, you probably got 3 Liverpool, 3 Arsenal. You need to free hit this week. Like that's planned. But I'm seeing a lot of people free hitting when they've got 10 players, 11 players, an okay looking squad in their side, and they're looking to tap into single game week fixtures. City, Spurs. Okay, Burnley have got the double, but it's not exactly the greatest double ever. I just wondered what you thought about doing that, because you wouldn't advise that someone uses their free hit in a normal single game week, throughout the season. Why are people flocking to it this season, this week, for example, when maybe they don't need to do it?
Yeah, I think that I can completely understand for the wildcarders who have done it, because you probably sat there with 6 players who aren't going to be playing, and it makes absolute sense to do that. I think it's quite a nice week to be targeting City, given that we're not. The issue with City each week is normally predicting who will start and rotation. This feels like a week where we probably won't get mass rotation, because they've had this free midweek and then they play Peterborough next week in the FA Cup. So it feels like quite a good match to target. My feeling is if you can kind of get 10 or 11 out, and they're reasonable players, if you can get, one of the key Spurs premiums, Son and Kane, and if you can do that, then and you can get Weghorst in maybe, and a bit of Burnley, maybe 1 or 2 Burnley cover. You don't necessarily need to, but I think it has been driven by people wildcarding last week, and that's the majority that I'm seeing being wielded because of that.
But I think there is a massive element of FOMO creeping in. I think Twitter forms this kind of bubble where you see a lot of people with teams, and you might see someone with Son and Kane and Sancho and Cancelo and Sterling, and think, oh my God, their team looks so much better than mine. Yeah. I've got to kind of match that side. Yeah. And this is where it comes down to that mini league versus overall rank. Because overall rank wise, the free hit we're a bubble. It's not going to make a huge difference. Sterling's like 4% owned. Mahrez is like 3%. Sanchez is like 1-2%. These aren't the players that are going to kill you rank wise if you don't get them. But you worry about missing out when you see people around you kind of doing it. And
it's like Weghorst has on Saturday. I'm checking the scores on my phone. I'm out, and I go on Twitter, and it feels like he's about 50% owned on there. And in reality, he's still a differential. He's still under 5%. I completely get that. And people, it is hard when you're looking at these free hit teams. And we'll come to my team later. And the midfield is the area of weakness for mine. And I'm seeing, Mahrez and Sterling's and Son and people like that, and I get it, but you've got to kind of, it's not just about game week 27. You've got to think longer, further ahead than that.
Exactly, and that ties into the screen that I've got at the moment. So looking at potential wise, so game week 27, this is what I mean. You've got Burnley with a double game week. Burnley are not the best side. I know they've got 2 big wins in the double game week. They're probably going to survive relegation. They got decent players. They've got Cornet to come back in. They've got Weghorst. I've got no major issue with Burnley, but they're not the only team that you can target. On the screen is the teams that have got postponed matches to be rescheduled. So Chelsea have got Arsenal and Leicester. Leicester have got 3 games to be rescheduled. Norwich, Everton, Chelsea. I know Leicester are terrible at the back. Offensive wise, though, they're good. They've got Jamie Vardy to come back. They've got players like Harvey Barnes, James Maddison. Spurs have got Arsenal. We know what Kane can do in the North London derby. Absolutely loves them. Arsenal have got Tottenham and Chelsea. Everton have got Burnley, Leicester. Villa have got Burnley. Burnley have got 2 more double game weeks themselves. Villa and Everton. And then Norwich. Okay, no one's going to be targeting them against Leicester. But I think what we've seen is the Premier League can drop a double game week in at very short notice. And having the free hit allows you to plan. Well, in fact, the opposite. It means you don't have to plan for that to happen because you can react. You can react very quickly. Yeah. So I'm not here to say you should free hit this week. You shouldn't free hit. We all know it's team dependent, but I do think if you've got 11 players out or 10 and you can get 11 with a hit, really think about is City against Everton and Spurs against Leeds, are they kind of the best that you think are going to happen between now and the end of the season? Because City, I did an article for Scout earlier. I had a look at City after they lose. When City lose, which is rare, Pep rings the changes.
Okay.
And I wonder what we're going to see. He makes between 4 and 6 changes whenever they lose for the next match. And this is going back to last season in the games that I watched. So Mahrez didn't start. He came on for 22 minutes. I think he plays. That's fine. I think Sterling plays because he hasn't exactly got a lot of competition. Elsewhere in the team, I don't know who starts in that match. Cancelo does, I would imagine. But Foden, I'm not sure about Foden. De Bruyne, Gundogan. I don't know what side they're going to put out. The one thing I will say, though, is when City lose, they tend to win quite big the next game.
There's a reaction.
There's a reaction.
Yeah. It feels like Mahrez, because he got that breather at Spurs. I think he's returned in something like 7 of his last 8 appearances in Premier League matches for City. So I think him on the right. I think probably Sterling on the left, and then I don't know. You would think Foden through the middle, but there's obviously been that situation last weekend, which. It depends. It depends what happens around that. Where I don't think that he was in the wrong by any means with that. But you don't know the way that the Pep's kind of look at that and react to that. And that midfield spot, it feels like De Bruyne will start, I think. But then is it Gundogan or is it Bernardo Silva alongside him? So that's what you play on the free hit. It is a bit of a risk for sure, but. you've got to do it if you're on a free hit. You've got to get a couple of City.
You have to target City. You have to target United, and you have to target Spurs. But then you look at United and Spurs. I mean, Spurs beat City, flying high, amazing counter-attacking football. Yeah. And then tonight, losing 1-0.
But even going back before that City game, they'd lost to Southampton at home, they'd lost to Wolves at home. So
and
really,
Chelsea going back as well.
That City match is a real kind of standout because they've been pretty poor apart from that recently. But again, it's Leeds, isn't it? So we'll talk about Leeds. Later, I'm sure.
We will. Leeds suit Spurs a lot more than Burnley. Like Spurs under Conte are a counter-attacking side, and that's why they were able to pick off City so well. But they weren't able to do that against Burnley. Couldn't get the goals. Although Kane hit the crossbar, I think, was unlucky not to score. Against Leeds, I mean, Son and Kane against Leeds surely get something for their owners. You've got to have one of them in your side. But do you need a free hit to get two? I'm not too sure. It's something we'll talk about. And we'll touch on... We've created some free hit teams that we'll talk about kind of towards the end of this. But yeah, I do think people listening to this who are looking to free hit, just make sure you're kind of doing it for the right reasons, because I do think there's going to be other opportunities like we've got on the screen to think of doing them a bit later on.
Yeah, there will be small doubles, and obviously as well we're expecting a slightly bigger one, 36 I think as well. So if you have only got one left and you're thinking of using it this week, just kind of realise that there will be a good double game week still to come, which you can get your teeth stuck into and maybe use it then. So
absolutely. 1,000 people watching us tonight. Thank you everyone for being here. It's going to be a late one, this one.
Yeah.
I did warn you. If you're enjoying this, make sure you subscribe and like the channel. We really appreciate it. And if you like listening to Tom and I, then you should probably go over to Fantasy Football Scout as well, because we work there. So you might like some of the stuff that comes out over there too. You like stats, don't you, Tom? We've got loads. Got so many stats.
Sure do.
So many stats.
Yeah.
Let's do some stats. So first of all, we'll start with team data defense. So on the screen is the basically the team data sorted by minutes per XG conceded non-penalty. So this is essentially how often a team scores concedes a chance, which the algorithm defines as being a goal, essentially. So Man City at the top, 138.6. So essentially they're expected to concede less than a goal a game. That's the best in the league. Second is Chelsea, which I thought was quite interesting. They've overtaken Liverpool to be at 109.2. So their defence, the likes of Rudiger and or even someone like Marcus Alonso and Reece James all look good value. The fixtures for Chelsea from Gameweek 30 to the end of the season are just absolutely ludicrous. And they've got the doubles to come as well.
Yeah, no, it looks really good. But the issue for Chelsea is where do you go? Rudiger feels like the best option there right now, doesn't he? You just want James to come back into the fold a little bit. Alonso still feels risky to me. I mean, they've kind of dabbled with a back four, and Sarr's been playing left back, hasn't he? Yeah. So, Alonso feels a bit risky. He came on and got the assist at the weekend, though. But, it feels like Rudiger. And then we kind of need a Reece James to come out and start playing regularly. And if he does, he could be a big player for the run-in. So.
Yeah, that's what we need. 11th and 12th are Spurs and United, which I just wanted to highlight because that is not at all where they'll want to be. These are top four chasing sides, and you can't finish in the top four with stats like this. I don't think you've got to have your defence at least in the top half of the table. Spurs are conceding a chance every 70 minutes. Man United, next year every 70 minutes. Man United every 68.2. So these aren't good stats. These are worrying for Conte and Randy. I think particularly Conte, who's had a very solid history with defences and not conceding too many goals. So he's going to want to tighten them up, to that. But these aren't teams that I think you need to worry about if your players are playing against them, because you just sense anyone can score against them at the moment. Yeah,
United give up chances, don't they? It was on the weekend, but before that, when it was Brighton, when they were playing Brighton, they were second best up until the sending off, and a home game against Brighton, and Brighton looked more likely to score. Yep. They were carving them open, and that's where United are. Yeah, of course, yeah. And so they were playing well, and United give it. De Gea's bailed them out a lot over the past few months, hasn't he? With his performances, you know, he's been racking up 7-8 saves in a game sometimes. So yeah, I think for, you know, if you're on a free hit this week, I mean, you're probably going to go for a United defender, aren't you? But I don't know if you're going with that much confidence in it. So
yeah, I mean, Man United are giving up a big chance every 47.8 minutes, which is a lot. Like they could, in theory, be conceding 2 goals every game they play based on the kind of season data. And I think, like you say, it's only because of the heroics of De Gea, which meant that they haven't done that, even though sometimes they do. So, yeah, it's worrying times. Leeds, though. Leeds right at the bottom now of the team data defence. 20th. They're conceding an XG non-pen every 53.7 minutes. It's looking worrying for them. I mean, I said at the start of the season, I thought Leeds would be in a relegation battle this season, and I got absolutely slammed for it. I mean, they've been very unlucky with the injuries so far. But
I was going to say,
do you think they can? I think they're in big trouble. They really are.
I think the injuries have been bad, obviously, and they've been bad for quite a while. I can remember it was over Christmas when they were really struggling. I think the problem is for them now is that they've got Phillips out. Their second choice kind of holding player, Robin Koch, went off with a head injury at the weekend, and then they've used Strauch in that role as well, but he's needed at centre-back because Llorente was out tonight and Cooper's out as well. And I think the problem is you take those 3 players who Bielsa spoke about at the weekend as being his 3 kind of main kind of defensive screening midfielders, although they are centre-backs as well, but they can kind of cover and move in. So you take those 3 out, and then you're asking Forshaw, who's obviously been out for a long, long time, not in the same mould as those players either. And I think it's just too easy to cut through them, isn't it? They need players back. I think they spoke about March time for Phillips. Bamford, obviously not affecting the defence directly, but still a big player. Feels like the spine of that team with Cooper, Phillips and Bamford is missing. And they just look so open at the moment. And they are in trouble. But they've had some tough fixtures. I still think that if they can get Phillips back playing and probably Cooper as well, then I think they'll be all right. But Rafinha doesn't kind of see, you know, what's going on there. You know, he's I read earlier he didn't have a great game tonight. He obviously came off the bench at the weekend, hauled off early at Goodison. That doesn't seem right, does it?
I can't believe he was benched. He was benched in that last game. I mean, you coming over to the last 6 data. You mentioned that Leeds have had tough fixtures. They're actually 4th on the difficulty ticker over the last 6. So they haven't had particularly tough fixtures.
I was just talking about the last 2. I was just talking about the last 2. But
in general, they should have picked up a lot more points than they should have done. Bearing in mind, I mean, you think about where Leeds were at the end of last season. People thought this season, this is a side that could challenge flying. Top 6, 6 to 8. Yeah. That's the expectation. You know, I think they're in an interesting battle because I think the likes of Everton are floundering, but then you've got Burnley and Newcastle suddenly, you know, Phoenix from the ashes coming up. So they're very much in danger of being dragged down into the bottom 3.
It feels like there's one spot, doesn't there? I think Norwich. They've lost Adam Idah. I think they're gonna kind of struggle a bit. I think Watford after tonight. I mean, what's that going to do for them losing to Palace heavily at home? So it feels like those 2 are maybe going to get cut adrift a little bit, and then it's one place, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see. Burnley have obviously got a bit of momentum now. Yep. Newcastle too, although I'm still not quite convinced they've been playing that well, to be honest. But sorry, Magpies fans, but so, and there's a few teams, isn't there? You know, Everton have just been, you know, really inconsistent under Lampard. I know he's only had a few games in charge, but they were great against Leeds and then terrible in their other 2 games away from home. So
Brentford as well. Brentford struggling to pick up points.
Lost 6 of their last 7, going in the wrong direction. So this kind of it's quite interesting, that whole kind of last kind of relegation spot. Although Watford won't write themselves off yet, of course, but it just feels like looking at that result, that's worrying, isn't it? Tonight, losing 4-1 at home to Palace. So. Yeah,
I think Watford and Norwich. I'd be very surprised if either of those 2 sides manage to stay up. But that 3rd spot is so good. I would not be surprised if it was Everton. I mean, you talk about last 6. So the last 6 data is really interesting because Everton a 16th on the data, on the XG conceded non-penalty data. They've had the best fixtures according to the ticker. So conceding so many chances with good fixtures. Below Everton though are Spurs, 17th, and they've had the third best fixtures. So I mean, that is, again, this is not the Conte way to be right down there, and they've had problems, haven't they? I mean, Reguilon's been out. But a lot of these games have featured Romero coming back, who's everyone's saying is this absolutely wonderful player and plays so well, but he hasn't helped shore them up massively.
No, they started off really well under Conte as well, and he kind of immediately in, and they were keeping a few clean sheets, they were keeping the scores down, they were doing pretty well. But yeah, just recently that Southampton result, that Wolves result tonight, it's just it's going to take a bit of time, isn't it? I think he's brought in a couple of players in the window, but it's not quite clicking for them yet. So,
but I mean, if Everton are falling this far down the table, not picking up any points, and they've had the best fixtures over the, I mean, according to slightly, I mean, this is a combination of my own rankings and Lego Mane's, so take it with a bit of a pinch of salt. But they've had good fixtures essentially. They got a tough run coming, a really tough run, starting with City coming next. So you've got to think, this is worrying times, I think, for the top.
You're looking at that Newcastle and those Watford games coming up in 29 and 30, and they're going to be absolutely massive for them, aren't they? But I don't know about. I wasn't that sure about the Lampard appointment at Everton. Let's give it a chance. Let's see how it goes. But I'm just not sure that's a great fit. But let's see how they get.
It's very different to a few seasons ago. They were in a similar battle. I think they had Marco Silva, and they were struggling down the bottom of the table, and they appointed Big Sam. Big Sam comes in, you're going to stay up. Like that's just what's going to happen. But Everton have gone the other way. They've appointed a manager who's attack first, defensively, almost sometimes naive, I think, as a manager. I remember watching them at Derby when Villa beat them in the playoff final, and they kind of got into the playoffs, and I wasn't that impressed with them that season at all. I think they kind of overachieved a bit, and then I think he did an okay job at Chelsea with that first season with the transfer embargo, but couldn't really build on that. So feels like a bit of an unknown Lampard at the moment, I think, really. But it feels like it's a big few weeks, and I'm not sure about those signings they made. I like Van der Beek, but not quite sure where he fits in. I don't know about the Dele Alli signing. It feels like there's a lot of players who perform best in the same position, and he's going to have to try and get those guys clicking and playing in positions they're comfortable in, and for the best of the team. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Other end of the table, though, defensively, let's talk about some happier things. Arsenal were top over the last 6, and 14th on the ticker, so bottom 10. So not the easiest games, but featuring really highly on that. So people with the likes of Ramsdale, Tierney, Gabriel got amazing fixture run from 28 onwards. So you're going to be really happy with that. Chelsea 17th on the ticker over the last 6 games, but third on the list. So clearly still struggling a bit attacking wise, struggling to get Lukaku and these players into the game, but defensively, teams are struggling to break them down. So I can see a lot of clean sheets for Chelsea between now and at the end of the season. And the last thing I want to mention is Watford. So Watford are up to 8th over the last 6. So this is kind of the Hodgson era. 13th on the ticker, so bottom 10. But clearly, that is the kind of focus. I mean, this obviously changed tonight. They've conceded a bucket load of goals to Palace, but I think it just shows that this is what Hodgson is trying to instill in the team: is be difficult to break down. I think they are still going to suffer quite big losses because they're not the best side, but when they get it right, they can frustrate teams.
Well, they did against us at the weekend. I mean, we had, I think it was 20 shots at Villa Park on Saturday, but it was only one big chance. So Watford were quite happy to let us shoot, but they weren't good chances. They got us exactly where they wanted us, really. And I thought that was going to continue under Hodgson. He had won, I think, 2 of his first 4 games, keeping things relatively tight, but they've just been blown away this evening, haven't they? So, worrying for them, because this would have been a match they kind of put down as, look, don't lose this one.
Attack team data attack. So over the season, absolutely no surprise that Liverpool are top, 39.8 minutes per XG non-penalty. Second is City, again no surprise, 46.2. But it's quite a big gap between those two sides, and it's an even bigger gap between City and third, who is United, at 61.1. So Liverpool are just so top. Like, they're basically expected to score 2.5 goals every match they play, which is nuts, and they are delivering on it. We're going to talk about some player data in a bit. You've got Salah, Mane, Jota, they all feature so highly. They're just an incredible side, and with City losing to Spurs, the title race is wide open.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's great. I mean, they've got players, Firmino, Jota out at the moment, and they can, Diaz. I mean, what a signing he looks. I mean, what an impact he's made in a short amount of time as well. He feels like he's been there for 6 months already, the way he's playing. So yeah, they've just got options. Mane's delivered tonight, hasn't he? Salah's delivered. Yeah, I mean, they're just the attack to back, aren't they? So, it'll be interesting, won't it, for the run-in, whether or not we double up on that attack again. I know we had Jota and then people have lost him this week, but will there be a space for another attacker to come in with a Mane or something like that if they get another good double or something? So
yeah, I mean, people that went for Salah, Mane, Trent. I think it was either one. If you free hitted, for example, this week, I think you went for Mane. He would have been popular. If you wildcard, you probably went for one of the defenders. But if you went for Mane alongside Salah, fair play. Yeah, absolutely. Brighton are 12th, another team I've highlighted. Our defensive data is good, but we're struggling to score, and we're also struggling to create chances. And I was talking to Gianni earlier again, and I just said, I'll tell you who would have been an amazing signing for Brighton, Wout Weghorst. Exactly what we need. Guy can just put chances away and hold the ball up and all of that, but he's gone to Burnley. So if Burnley do get relegated, maybe Brighton will move for Wout. But I think Burnley will stay up, to be honest. So I wouldn't be too worried, Burnley fans.
It looks a lot better now, doesn't it, after the last two with those back-to-back wins? It's amazing what that can do. And they're very, very Burnley-like as well, aren't they? The result surprised me a bit on Saturday, that 3-0. But tonight it's just typical Burnley, isn't it? Grounding out that 1-0 win. And it's what they're very good at, and fair play to them.
And Josh Brownhill delivering for all the people that have held him since game week 1, which can't be many. I'd love it. If there are any Brownhill owners in the chat, let yourself know, because that's a hell of a return for him.
I think I put him on my free hit team for next week, which we're going to see later. But honestly, this was done this afternoon, and he weren't making the starting 11. He was first sub. I will make that clear. But that'd be amazing if somebody owns him out there, and they've actually got him in the starting 11. So. I know.
Yeah. Season data. Just the last thing on that is Norwich. I mean, Norwich are so far at the bottom. They're 20th, 120.8 minutes per XG. So they're basically not expected to score in any game that they play. Just another reminder, if you've got defenders, play them against Norwich, and Southampton are the perfect example. That's why we both want Livramento to play this week.
Definitely.
Yep.
It did feel like Norwich under Smith they had won a few matches in a row up until about 3 games ago, I think, and then they've lost 3. They've had a couple of really difficult fixtures, obviously, but it feels like now they've lost Ida up front, who would come in and made an impact. I think they're going to struggle now, aren't they? I don't see them even making much of a fight of it, I don't think.
Yep. Last 6 data, just a few to mention here. Everton are down in 14th, so we talked about their defensive data being quite poor with the best fixtures. Well, their attacking data is also rubbish with the best fixtures as well. So I think just avoid Everton. This is the message. They can't defend, they can't attack. They're in big trouble. Don't go there. Leicester in 9th. The interesting thing about Leicester, though, is they've had the worst fixtures over the last 6, and they're still in the top 10. So again, I talk about opportunities. I do think Leicester players, with Vardy coming back, for example, could present something a bit different for people.
I completely agree. It's exactly what I was looking at a couple of days ago, because you're always looking at these clubs which maybe go a bit under the radar because they haven't got doubles. And I think Leicester over, what have they got? They've got Burnley, and then they've got Leeds. And then they've got Arsenal away, which is tougher, but then they've got Brentford. So you're getting 3 good fixtures in the next 4. Nobody's going to look at them because your eyes always go for the players who are playing twice. But I thought they looked really good at Wolves. Even Maddison was on the bench. Harvey Barnes was injured. Jamie Vardy was out. Yet they still look a real threat. Lookman was pretty lively in that. I like Daka, Iheanacho coming off the bench. So that... I know we're going to go for double game week players and that, but Leicester, I do think there could be a bit of value in going for somebody like Maddison now, albeit if he might have one fixture less than others. But yeah, I always like Leicester in attack. I always like.
Yeah, it's just tricky because I mean Harvey Barnes is kind of in and out of the team. Vardy's going to be back, so you can't really go for Daka. Madison's got injuries. He's got the injuries though. That's the kind of issue with him. But I mean, he's obviously the one when he's fit. But yeah, I mean, I'm Maddison's biggest fan, and any excuse I can have him on a wild card, I'll be going that. But I think
Harvey Barnes had been doing really well as well until he got this. He sat out at the weekend, but he had been putting a run together as well. So you'd expect him to come back into the team. I think they're in Europe on Thursday, tomorrow night, I think, actually. So I think he was expected back for that. And yeah, you're probably not going to look at Leicester now because of the double. People will be looking for Burnley players this week and naturally double game week players the week after as well. But yeah, they do feel like the attacker players at Leicester might be going under the radar a little bit.
Yep. Final thing I want to mention on the last 6 attacking data, and I mean we talked about managers, we talked about teams overperforming, all this kind of stuff. In 5th place in terms of minutes per XG non-penalty is Southampton. Now, firstly, that's amazing anyway, because Southampton I don't normally class as this big attacking side. You know, they've got good players. Broyer's great, Ward-Prowse is good. You know, great manager and all this kind of stuff, but they sell so many players. They're this kind of revolving door. I always expect them to be battling relegation or, you know, kind of, but they never really kind of seem to be dragged into that. But to be 5th on attacking data, and the most incredible thing about it, 19th on the ticker. They have played some really, really good sides.
Yeah.
But what do you think's different with them this season? Because they look the best I've seen Southampton play in the Premier League, and this is even going back to when they had the likes of Pella and Tadic and these guys. They just look so organised, so difficult to break down. They've got great players up front. They've got a great set piece player. Like, what's changed about them this season, do you think, to make them so good?
They've been very solid at home. I think they've lost once at home all season.
2 draws against City as well, home and away.
Yeah. And you know, they've lost once to Wolves at home, I think, which was all the way back in September. They haven't lost at home since, and they've drawn a lot of games in that, but they've been generally very hard to beat. I think Brozier's been a great signing for them. I think they're quite exciting at the moment. I mean, we'll talk about it later, but I think Stuart Armstrong coming back into that team is massive for them. I think he's a player I really, really like watching. Ella Noisy's kind of stepped up a little bit as well. And they've got options up front as well, haven't they? With Che Adams coming in, and even Long popped up with a goal, I think, recently as well. Livramento, good signing. So yeah, there's a lot to like. I mean, I like Hassan Tutul as a coach, and he seems to have been, you know, landed on a winning formula right now, and they look the business, don't they?
They do, yeah. Absolute credit to Hassan Tutul and Southampton, new owners as well, obviously. So I think if you're a Southampton fan, I think you've got good things to look forward to in the future. Right, let's talk some player data then. So this is player data over the season, again filtered by minutes per XGI this time, so expected goal involvements. This is goals and assists. At the top is Salah, no surprise, 110.3 minutes, so basically expected to get something for you just over every match that he plays. Second is Diogo Jota. Third, interesting enough, is Gundogan. Such a big player for us last season, but barely featured this year.
No, I noticed that. I was in the members area earlier in the week, and he sprung up, and he was very high on it. Just, you know, we can't rely on him for starts at the moment, can we? But with Bernardo Silva and De Bruyne, they're essentially fighting it out for 2 places each week, unless De Bruyne moves up to the kind of the false 9 role. But he hasn't done that so much over the past kind of 8 games or whatever. He's mainly been in midfield, hasn't he? So, but yeah, great option if you can get him to start.
Yeah, and then, I mean, players that we maybe can rely on a bit more from City. Sterling's in 6th, 141.1. 10 goals this season, which is only better by 2 players, which is Jota and Salah. And then you've got Mahrez there as well, 8 goals, 5 assists. So again, having a good season. He's normally someone who features right at the top of this list in terms of expected goal involvement. I mean, he's 9th, which isn't too bad. But I mean, Sterling and Mahrez, would you have both of those on a free hit this week if you were doing it?
I definitely have Mahrez, and I still think I would side with De Bruyne over Sterling. But,
Interesting.
But we'll see that I tried to build a free hit draft, which we'll see later on, and it was too difficult to cram in De Bruyne alongside Son and Kane, so I opted for Sterling and Mahrez. I really like Sterling as an option. I do have a bit of I do tend to go to De Bruyne a bit more if it was a straight shootout, but there's a price difference there, and that's why I went for Sterling as well. So.
Yeah, I think Sterling would be the first name on one of the first names on my free hit team. I think Sterling. I would definitely go for Sterling and Mahrez if I was doing it.
I can totally see that. Really good picks, and you would expect them to start, I think, as well this week.
Yeah, I think so. Going a bit further down the list, I mean, I mentioned him last week, but Trent's on there, 23rd on the player data. He's absolutely no right to be on this list. I mean, there's only one other defender in the top 30, which is Doherty of Spurs. He's played limited minutes and things. But,
I was going to say,
for someone who plays 90 minutes, for a defender to be on this list for expected goal involvement is crazy. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I think I have seen people who have triple captained Trent this week,
I was just about to say that.
You'd be devastated, wouldn't you?
Talk
about point swings.
Yeah, I mean, most of us going into the game week, if we had to say that somebody was going to get rested for one of these games out of Salah and Trent, I think most of us probably would have thought Salah would have been benched in one of them. But then the Firmino injury happened, Jota's obviously out, and different things led to Salah starting both. Well, he might have anyway, but a bit, especially with Robertson hauling as well tonight. He's obviously gone big. So that is one of those brutal swings. I mean, Salah, I think, was always the standout captaincy option this week, but Alexander had outscored him for a few weeks, prior to this. So I can see why people did it. But a bit unlucky with that one. What's he finished with? Is it 6 from the game week, I think? Alexander Arnold,
6. No bonus, just a clean sheet. Yeah.
So 22 odd point difference.
Brutal.
Yeah.
And the other player is Antonio. So Antonio's down in 25th. I mean, it's remarkable that he's even in the top 30, I think. But again, you look at that from where he was start of the season, and he was second or third, I think, on this list for so long.
Yeah, he's just been running to the ground, hasn't he? I mean, when everybody else was having a winter break, he was playing 3 games or whatever with Jamaica, and that was the time he needed to rest up because he looked dead on his feet a little bit, even in the game. I think Moyes touched on it, didn't he? I think he said prior to that winter break, they were chasing the game against Leeds, but he just could hardly run at the end. And then he's obviously gone off carting over to the other side of the world and played 3 times with them, and just doesn't look right at the moment, does he?
No, absolutely.
Understandably.
I think it is that. It's too many games and no rest, and
there's no other option. There's no backup there for him, though, is there? So you can move Bowen in there, but Bowen's been so good playing where he has been. They're obviously not going to do that. They're not going to want to do that, and so it just seems madness that there isn't somebody else that can kind of come into that front line and give him a break every now and again.
I'm so surprised they didn't move for a forward, any forward.
Especially the position they're in.
I know,
they're in a really good position, aren't they?
Absolutely.
They've got an opportunity to try and challenge for that top 4. But when you're playing Antonio week in, week out for 90 minutes, I mean, the schedule hasn't been that bad this month for West Ham because they haven't had many midweek games. But obviously Europe kicks in for them next month. And so then it's like, what are you going to do then? It's going to be interesting to see.
Yep. Moving on to play data over the last 6. Salah's top again. Why wouldn't he be? He's always top of everything. 100 minutes per XG non-pen, so better than his season data. So actually, overperforming on his kind of season data. Kane's in second though, 104. This is before the game tonight, but I can't imagine hitting the crossbar is going to hurt his stats too heavy. So he's been in form, over the last 6, and 18 minutes per shot is the second best to Salah in the league. As well, so you can see why people were moving on for him. No, nothing else to add. No, just good, right? Son's in sixth as well.
Sorry, you just cut out a little bit then. As you were talking about Kane's shot count, and then it cut out. But
that was all right. No, just good. I mean, what else is there to say? Good player.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been a Kane owner for a few weeks, and he has been shooting a lot. But it's that Spurs inconsistency, isn't it? You know, beating at home to Wolves, didn't score tonight. So it's he probably hasn't done quite enough as what the City brace was a bit of a surprise at the weekend for me, but happy to hold him now, obviously, for a few more weeks.
Yeah. We mentioned Gundogan. Gundogan's in fifth, 119.6. Foden, interestingly enough, is in 12th. So we've talked about Sterling and Mahrez and these kind of players, but actually Foden, even with just one goal, is still featuring really highly in this list. And this indicates that he's been kind of unlucky to get as few returns as he's had. I know a lot of people are getting frustrated with him, losing patience. You know, you've got this City asset and you want him to be returning, you know, almost week on week. But I'm in two minds about him. I can't work out whether he's an easy sell when I wildcard or whether I actually do want to hold him because he seems to start most matches and he's kind of integral to the way City play at the moment. What's your thoughts on Foden?
I like him, but now Sterling has kind of seems to be coming back into Pep's thoughts as a first team player. You know, you expect Sterling to start. Mahrez is playing really well as well, which then maybe makes Foden more of an option through the middle. Now, I prefer him off the left, to be honest. I prefer him kind of cutting in off that side rather than dropping, you know, a bit like Grealish, the way that he plays that role as well. I prefer him out wide, and it doesn't seem certain that he's going to start there each week. So, I don't know, yes. You kind of never want to take Foden out, do you? Because you know what he's capable of doing. You know what City are capable of, even in the big games. So it's a really tough one with Foden. But I think I'd probably be tempted to hold him a little bit longer. But then I appreciate there's double game week players who are looking at you and you're probably thinking, you know, we'll make a move there. And Mahrez has got penalties as well. Obviously a little bit more expensive, but he's got a lot going for him as well at Mahrez as well at the moment. So it is tricky.
Well, the thing is, he's 7.9, isn't he? So he's not exactly like a premium player. So that boosts his appeal, I think, quite a lot. Yeah,
definitely.
Before we move on to keepers, I have got to go to the toilet. I've had 3 beers and I can't. My bladder can't handle it. But I have got a quiz question for you to ponder while I quickly go for a wee. We're going to come to keepers next. Which keeper is the best for preventing XG, and which keeper is the worst preventing XG? And when I return, I don't normally do this, by the way. I normally hold it, but I really have to go. I'll wait your answer when I get back. Hold the fort, Tom. Sorry, Tom. So unprofessional.
All right. Well, I didn't know what to do then. Should I talk to everybody? I didn't really know.
Well, you've got.
I was going to ponder the question and kind of just talk to myself for a few minutes, and I thought nobody wants to listen to me weigh up the pros of Ramsdale or Jose.
You're getting called chatty, very chatty in the chat. Some people want to see you do a flip.
Sorry, guys. I'm letting the team down now, and
it's all right. What I'll do is I'll edit this out of the podcast version, so like it never happened. So
please do.
It's only the 1,200 people watching who get to see that. Man didn't say a word. Brilliant. Love it. I feel so much better, though. I definitely need that. So what's your answer, then? Who do you think... I think the XG prevented will surprise you, but the XG sort of not prevented won't. That's my prediction.
So the XG, the top keepers, there was 3 which sprung out, and it's Ramsdale, Sarr, and De Gea. And I'm tempted to say Sarr. I think Jose Sarr, I think, is going to be my guess for that.
Jose Sarr. Everyone asking if I washed my hands. Of course, I wash my hands. I'm not a savage. Always. Right, keepers on the screen. Actually, it's Pope. Pope had the best XG prevented over the last 6, 4.2, which is remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And 4 clean sheets over the last 6. And if we just go back to the team defence quickly over the last 6, Burnley are 18th on the ticker. So not only have they had the most clean sheets, Pope has prevented the most goals, and they've been, they're just not expected to have kept as many clean sheets as they have. So it's a remarkable return to form for Pope, who was really struggling on these stats sort of earlier in the season. Worst, I mean, if we exclude Darlow, is actually Meslier, Leeds, 3.7. So minus 3.7. So they've conceded bucket loads of goals anyway. They've conceded 14 goals in his last 6 matches, and he should have prevented nearly 4 of those.
There's issues right through the team, isn't there?
Absolutely.
At the moment. So that if you're looking at that, and given everything we've said prior to that tonight, if captaincy is going to be really interesting, isn't it, this week? I don't think Tottenham have really inspired us either tonight, but it's the opposition which is the appeal, isn't it, this week? So it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of people who go for Weghorst, but then there's going to be a lot of people who are looking at Son and Kane thinking, I'm going to go for the single game weaker, and hopefully he'll outscore the doubler.
Some of them to mention here. Foster, I thought, is interesting. Okay, 5th on the list, an XG rating of minus 1.3, so kind of underperforming on that, but still 2 clean sheets. Of the first 2 clean sheets that Watford had got, it's 4.1. That's the main thing with him. So I still think on a wild card, you can get a keeper for 3.9, maybe even 3.8, but you pay that little bit extra for Foster, and at least you get someone.
Well, you've got Foster, and you've got Gunn who's playing for Norwich as well as 4 million, isn't he? At least until Krul's back. But I think Foster feels like the actual number 1, whereas Gunn is obviously just in there until Krul's back. So that's why tonight's result was such a surprising one, wasn't it? At home to Palace, and you concede 4 when they'd looked relatively solid before that under Hodgson. So real curveball, that one.
I didn't see that coming, if I'm being honest. I thought, especially without Edouard as well, I thought Palace would really struggle. Because he's been the one top of all the stats metrics, and he just can't get a look in now. It's really odd, that one, because he has been doing really well, and I always thought he was a bit of a rotation risk because there's so many options there. You've got Benteke and Mateta. Zaha's come back from AFCON as well with Ayew, hasn't he? And then you've got Olise, and there's a lot of players there, but I didn't quite foresee him being dropped to the point where, what did he come on tonight, just for like the last minute or something like that? He came on. There's already someone in the chat saying that they blocked his Livramento points.
Oh man, that's brutal,
isn't it?
Brutal. Yeah. I feel for you then. I really do. But no, just it's odd, that one, that considering how he seems to be playing pretty well, and then just out of nowhere he's just benched inconsistent, in consecutive matches as well. So,
yeah. Jose Sarr, who you mentioned, only 2 clean sheets actually for Wolves over the last 6, but actually running over 2.1, which is. I did say so. I thought we were talking across the season, so that's why I went. So had you said no? So had you said last 6, I might have been, because we look at these stats a lot when we're doing our over at Scout with Neil. We're doing the Scout picks and things like that. And we look at the XG prevented is quite a popular one to look at, and so I think I would have known that was Pope. If you paid more attention to BlackBox in the past, Tom, you'd know this was over the last 6 and not 6.
Well, I am a regular viewer. I'm disappointed in myself now, to be honest. So, these are the things which are really great on me, and I'll be thinking about it tomorrow.
You won't sleep tonight.
No. Oh well, at least I got the triple captain on Salah. I think I will actually, but. But now, so Sarr about mid-table then, by the look of it. So,
yeah, about mid-table. I mean, it's filtered by clean sheets, so a 2 is okay. I mean, you might expect Wolves to get a few more, but again, the ticker hasn't been that kind to them. It's from 28 when their fixtures turn really, really nice. So I'm expecting more clean sheets. Another good one is Schmeichel. So Schmeichel's actually prevented is actually 2.4 over the last 6, which I know Leicester have been struggling defensively, but they've been struggling defensively and he's been letting in too many clear-cut chances, but he has been doing better in terms of the saves that he's made. So I don't think Leicester defensive assets are going to be on the radar for us anytime soon, but it's nice that Schmeichel is starting to pick up a little bit of form.
They need some defenders back, don't they? They need Fofana and Evans, and they've had quite a few. Vestergaard hasn't settled at all, has he? So they need a few back.
Absolutely. I mean, but for me, if I was picking a goalkeeper kind of between now and the end of the season, I'd be picking between Ramsdale and Sarr. I think they've got obviously two good fixtures, but Pope is up there, right? I mean, Burnley, I talked about the kind of fixtures that have got to come. Burnley have still got 2 fixtures to be rearranged, Villa and Everton.
Yeah.
2 decent fixtures. There is a case, I think, for going with Pope as your main goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean, he does very well for bonus as well. Burnley are generally pretty low-scoring games, aren't they? And he generally does well for bonus. It feels like there's a few good options. I think I'd still put Ramsdale and Sarr maybe a touch ahead, but certainly not a bad option. And now he's obviously got the double against Palace and Leicester, and he's delivered in every double game week so far. He's had 2 double game weeks recently, and he's done brilliantly in both, hasn't he? So,
yeah, another one to come as well. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let's move over to defenders. So again, this is defenders over the last 6. I mentioned Doherty's top. I don't know why. I can't get rid of him because I filter by it's filtered by 180 minutes, I think, over the last 6, and he has been featuring, and when he plays, his stats are quite good. So worth keeping an eye on. But I mean, realistically, no one's going to be going there. Reguilon's second. Reguilon is second. Can we get him back in the side? Are people that have held on for him to all this time ever going to get any minutes from him again? Because when he does play, he looks so good, but. I mean, there's rumours he's had COVID.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, he's on the bench. COVID, maybe.
Sessegnon's come in, hasn't he? And he feels like a bit more of a rival than maybe he was a few months back when Conte came in and it was just Reguilon was first choice. There seems to be another option there now. And Kulusevski, I think, as well. I think he moved to right back tonight once they made some switches as well. So Doherty, he was probably second behind Emerson Royale. I don't know if he's there in the pecking order now. So there's quite a few options at wing back, but it's a demanding role at Spurs, the wing back one. So you probably need 2 players there, which isn't great for us as FPL managers because they're pretty much no-goes, aren't they?
I think so. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be investing in either of the Spurs fullbacks. We saw their defensive data, probably any of their defence, and that's a shame because they've got good fixtures as well. To the end of the season. Simicast is in 5th. I just thought I'd highlight him just to show again there's such a able deputy for Robertson if and when Liverpool need him. His stats over the last 6 are better than Robertson's, for example. I mean, that could be because he only plays in the matches in which they feel that they can rest on Robertson, maybe when he's got a bit of an injury, but yeah, the stats go down to 3.7 as well. I think he's going to be very popular on free hit teams, considering I think he's the cheapest player in the game, isn't he?
I think you're right. Yeah, there's nobody cheaper than that, I don't think.
Which doesn't reflect his ability because he's a very good player. Look at our boy though, our boy in 7th, Tino Livramento.
Need him to start, really do. I mean, obviously. Walker-Peters obviously shifted to right back for a period, didn't he? And Peralta was playing at left back, but then Livramento's got back in. He's got to be, he's been one of their best players across the season, hasn't he? I know there was a bit of a dip in form of late but he's come back in and you've just got a really OP start. I mean, would you go with him on a free hit as if you were, we might see in your draft later, but it's, or does it feel too risky to you?
I would definitely go with him.
Yeah,
I mean, I know Walker-Peters is a threat, but I mean, early in the season, Walker-Peters had been shifted over to the other side and Livramento playing. I think Aston Villa loves Livramento. I think he's back from injury now. He's fit. I think he plays. So obviously, we've even seen him start, multiple times in a week earlier in the season. I don't think fitness is a concern for him.
No,
when
the
he
fact
is
they haven't got a midweek game either, so he's had a good bit of rest time as well. Yeah, I need him to deliver.
I definitely. I mean, even if I had the option of getting any of the Southampton defenders, I'd still pick Liverpool.
Yeah, I think I would too. Yeah.
15th is Cancelo. I'm always surprised to see Cancelo so low down on this list. Actually, just before I say that, I did say Simicast was ahead of Robertson. He's not. Robertson's 4th. I missed him. So Simicast is one below Robertson. just missing out. But yeah, Cancelo. I mean, minutes per chance created, 90 minutes. I mean, that's kind of okay. But minutes per shot is 31.8, which is the best of all defenders. And we saw it against Spurs, didn't we? I mean, how he came away from that game with 1 point.
First half was unbelievable. I mean, it felt like a big week for Cancelo because a lot of people lost him, didn't they, on the wild cards as well. So, and I think even some people on free hits this week, I know that the budget's tight and they're thinking, oh, can I drop down to Laporte or something like that and raise a bit of money that way? But I don't know. I think anybody who watched that Spurs game at the weekend is going to want to try and hold on to him and get him in this week, basically.
It's just amazing when you look at, I mean, his minutes per expected goal involvement is 425 minutes. I mean, that's not amazing. That's what, 1 in 4.5 games, something like that. And you look at Regulon.
A lot of his shots are from range, though.
Yeah.
A lot of them are from, he racks up a lot of attempts, but a lot of them are outside of the box, which are obviously going to carry quite low values in terms of their XG. But yeah, he just looks a real threat. He's an incredible player, isn't he? And it'll be very surprised if we don't see a few more double-digit hauls from him before the end of the season, unless City go into rotation. Although I don't think they are now, are they? Because the title's looking so close now. I think they're going to continue playing their best team week in, week out for quite a while longer yet. So.
Well, I mean, Cancelo. I mean, to be the best fullback for a team like Man City on both sides of the pitch. Because he's better than Walker. Let's be honest. Like on the right, he's better than Zinchenko on the left. He's
for sure
such a versatile, brilliant player. Yeah, great signing a few years ago for them. And the last one I mentioned is Alonso. So Alonso's down in 25th. Alonso normally bosses these charts, but he's really, really struggling at the moment. And again, there's not really any competition for that left wing back spot. But I don't want him. Would you go there?
No, I don't think so, because they have switched to a 4, haven't they? And Tuchel isn't going to play him in a back 4 as a left back. I think he has to be he has to have 3 centre backs behind him to kind of flourish, I suppose. But yeah, it's Rudiger, isn't it? And then if we want to go for a second, we need James to be fit. I don't think Christensen, Thiago Silva. I don't get too excited by that. I don't think so. And even Azpilicueta, I'm not sure about. So. No. Yeah, Alonso, it doesn't feel like an option right now.
No, it's just, I mean, you look at, there's no Rudiger on this list, for example. This is the last 6 matches. So you can't be expecting points from him. You're buying him for the security. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he does have a shot on him. He had a good shot at the weekend from about 30 odd yards at the weekend. He will pop up with it. He's got a couple of assists, but yeah, there's not as much threat as what we're talking about. Some of the guys on this list for sure. So. Nope. Agreed. Moving to midfield, then Rashford's top. Not really playing much for United at the moment, but he is top over the last 6. And then Salah and Mane. I mean, for Liverpool to have 2 midfielders featuring in the top 3 is pretty remarkable for these minutes per XGI. We've mentioned Gundogan, Son's in 5th. Jadon Sancho is interesting though, in 7th. I wonder what your thoughts are on him. Free hitters, for example. Fernandes is the obvious choice, but then if you need to downgrade and free up some funds, people are moving to Sancho. He's been in good form lately.
Yes, really good differential. Finally finding his feet after a tough start at United, I think. But the quality's always been there, and he seems to be playing in a system now. This kind of 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3 where Ranchnick is playing seems to suit him. He's playing on the left, he's playing on the right a bit, he's switching wings, and he looks a real threat. Great differential. And I think that, like you say then, the problem is budget this week on free hits. So I think a lot of people are thinking, I don't want to sacrifice Son or Kane or I want Sterling. So I think Sancho will be a really popular pick because people ain't going to be able to afford Fernandes. A lot of people won't anyway. I think really, really good option. Like him a lot.
He's one of those ones that you wouldn't be surprised if he blanked or he got subbed early. Like he's still, he's still a risk, isn't he? He's a risk that you can probably afford to take on a free hit, but
would you want him long term? No, but for a
not.
free hit this week, he's the kind of player a bit like him and a bit like Mahrez, where that's what the free hits are for, aren't they? Get them in for this week and then lose them after that, and don't worry about rotation or where they're going to play or whatever. But I like him this week, Sancho.
Yep. 2 Arsenal players. 10th is Martinelli. My boy. Well, he was my boy until he got sent off. Kind of did me a disservice there. Definitely would have played him.
You had a good run. I remember the Leeds game, wasn't it? And
that
red card, very well for you.
The red card hurt. It really did.
Soured it a bit,
Might have cost him a place on my wall, to be honest. And Odegaard. Odegaard's interesting in 16th as well. So Saka is down in 20th. Smith Rowe doesn't feature on this list. We'll talk about Lacazette in a bit. He's doing quite well, but I mean Martinelli's statistically the best Arsenal player to get. Would you go back there? I mean, Arsenal have got a good run sort of coming up. Would you go back there for their double, or would you stick with Saka?
Possibly. Saka feels a little bit more secure because Smith Rowe, he keeps coming off the bench and scoring. You keep thinking, has he done it? I mean, even, do you think Martinelli comes back in tomorrow? I think he probably will, but then...
I think he does.
Yeah, Smith Rowe's making an impact, isn't he, when he's coming off the bench? So does he reward him with a start when they're both fit soon off the left, or is he going to compete more with Odegaard for that number 10 kind of role behind a Lacazette? Not sure, I mean, there was talk of Martinelli, maybe. I think they went on a training camp recently and they tried him out as a number 9. Obviously, Lacazette, he can't play every single match now, can he? So there might be that. You might move forward to a number 9 role, which is obviously good for Martinelli if he can be versatile and he can play in a couple of different positions. But you can't really argue at that price, though, can you? So
I think it's one of the advantages I'm looking at of wildcarding in 28 rather than a few weeks ago, because I do think there is a bit of a doubt whether Martinelli comes straight back in. I mean, they beat Brentford. Smith Rowe scored in that game as well. If Martinelli does come straight back in, though, I think that pretty much confirms that Martinelli is a real first-choice Arsenal player who's not going to be threatened that much by rotation, with Watford to come, with a double game week, with good fixtures. So if Martinelli does come back in, I think I will go with him on the wildcard side. If he doesn't, then it's going to be Saka, I think, in 20th. Even though Odegaard's XGIs are better, I just think Saka's the real threat for that side.
It feels like you want the wide players in there, because Lacazette, maybe not so much recently, but he drops quite deep, doesn't he? Odegaard's kind of pulling the strings from deeper areas, and then it's the wingers who are offering that threat. That's why I think he likes Martinelli on that left side as well. He's a real goal threat. So, if he comes back in tomorrow, I just think for that price, he's a great enabler as well to go big in other positions as well, isn't he?
Yep, absolutely.
See that.
To a place to mention, Dan James in 13th. I talked about him last week with Andy. He only got an assist, but it's better than nothing. But he's an interesting one. I mean, 6 million, cheaper than Rafinha, for example. Good fixtures to come. Playing up front with Bamford out might be a bit of a differential left field pick, between now and the end of the season. If you want to back against, I mean, Rafinha's an interesting one because he's in that team. I think Dan James is interesting. 30th though is Jacob Ramsey. So I've got Ramsey in my size, 4.8 million, very cheap. The reason why I've put him in here is just because he's ahead of Coutinho and Buendia and some of the other really sort of creative Villa mids. So you've got Coutinho in your side, haven't you? Obviously, you're going to be keeping him.
Yeah.
Would you buy him?
I mean, I like Ramsey a lot. He's kind of playing on the left of that midfield three. I thought when we signed Luca Dean and Coutinho, I did think that would affect Ramsey's output, because you look at that left side of Villa. Obviously, Luca Dean is bombing forwards. You've got Coutinho, whose defensive work isn't kind of like somebody like Watkins if he plays in that role. So I did think Ramsey would have to hold back a bit. And then I was at the Leeds game recently, and that theory went completely out the window because he was bombing into the box. He's getting shots off close to goal. He was a real threat. And again, it's at that price. He feels pretty secure in that team at the moment. I don't think he'll be replaced. So yeah, decent option. I went with Coutinho just because little bit more creativity maybe, and I feel like there's more to come from Coutinho. I still think that he's still building up that fitness. And I think if we are going to get back on it, I mean, we haven't scored against Watford and Newcastle now in back-to-back games, and it's not looking great. But if we are to start getting a bit more momentum going forward, it feels like Coutinho is going to be really key to that.
It's our big battle. It's our big battle this weekend, Brighton v Villa.
It is, yeah, and we're both coming off the back of bad results as well, aren't we?
So absolutely.
It's got 0-0 or 1-0 written all over it, hasn't it? So
that is what I've gone for in my prediction, as we're seeing.
Same here, yeah. But let's see. But Ramsey, I don't think a bit like Martinelli, I don't think you can really go wrong if you've got a player who is guaranteed to start, like Ramsey does feel like he is at the moment. Bit of goal threat. He's probably going to be your fifth midfielder, isn't he? So he's only going to be needed every now and again. I don't think you can go wrong, really.
I think I might treat myself to Coutinho, but I do think Ramsey at 4.8. You got Gordon as well. He's 27th on this list. We talk about Everton sort of struggling, but I mean he's 4.5 million, and
good player,
good player, good young player. Lampard likes young players. Lampard is going to attack sides, so I think either of those two are a decent pick. Forwards, the last one of these, Kane is top, as we mentioned. 104.0. Thank God Kane is finally top of this list. It's been a weird season with him struggling so much. His minutes per shot at 18 is so much better than any other player in this list. So basically, if you're looking for a forward, Kane is number one priority. I don't think there's anything you can really say about that. But what is bad is his conversion, 10%.
Yeah,
pretty shocking for a player of his quality. And again, that's not going to have improved tonight, given that he hit the bar.
No, he really has been putting up some good shot numbers. But I've been a little bit underwhelmed with the returns outside of that City game. It hasn't been great. But again, once you make that decision and you go for Kane over Son like I did, you just got to stick with it now for a few weeks. And I'm pretty sure he'll do all right over the next few games, given the Leeds fixture and then the double game week still to come as well. So, at least he's getting the shots off.
It's a pretty depressing list, this though, Tom. I mean, Edouard's in second. You can't get him. It's awful. I mean, Jesus is third. I mean, Lacazette is down in fourth. But, I mean, he can't score to save his life. Then you got, like, Cavani. Then you got Cristiano Ronaldo, down in seventh.
Yeah, it's depressing, isn't it? No.
It's a really, really poor show from the forwards. I mean, Weghorst is down in 28th. So, people are expecting big returns from him. He's not exactly setting the world alight. I mean, this is over the last 6 matches. His minutes per XGI is 349. Kane's is 104. So obviously it's difficult to compare a Burnley striker to a world-class striker like Kane. But at the same time, people do get carried away with players. And Weghorst, I think, is a big bandwagon at the moment. And
people need to be, if they are going to captain, it might not be an easy watch over the next couple of games this weekend, because Burnley, it is that they don't score many goals. I know they got 3 at the weekend, but prior to that, I think they got 3 and 9 or something like that. So the good thing is that if Weghorst pops up with a goal, he's probably going to be in the mix for bonus as well, just because they don't score many generally. Burnley are quite a hard watch. I mean, it's a bit like when we captained the Watford guys a few weeks ago, and this. It's not swashbuckling attacking football, lots of shots, is it? You're lucky if you get 2 or 3 shots in a game from one of those type of forwards. So, it'll be an interesting decision to make this week.
It's just such an awful list, because, I mean, you've got Kane at the top, you've got Weghorst, you've got Broja, who's in 18th. And then it's like, who else would you even get out of these forwards? I mean, I've put Gelhardt in there at 17th. He's going to be the budget enabler that you might go for. But then you've got Broja, who's 5.4. Like he almost offers that for a little bit more. There's just so few, and you've got top strikers here like Ronaldo. Like he's too much money. I think no one's going to be paying that for him. Tony's out of form. You've got Calvert-Lewin who's doing nothing. You've got Jimenez who's doing nothing. You've got Watkins and Ings locked in this kind of rotation battle. It's so bleak.
We're desperate for a mid-price forward to kind of emerge and replace Antonio, I suppose. And I went with Calvert-Lewin a few weeks back and it just didn't work out at all. He missed the penalty. People have gone to Jimenez now. But obviously it's not Wolves aren't a massively attacking side either, are they? So I think he'll tick along, but I don't think you're going to be, he's not exactly a double-digit haul kind of striker, is he, Jimenez? No. He might get an assist, he might get a goal every now and again, but it's been the case all year after Antonio dried up. It's been quite a tough position to get right, hasn't it?
It really has. And bottom of this list, so just about making the top 30 forwards. And I'd probably struggle to name 29 other forwards if I didn't have this list in front of me. But it's Lukaku, world-class signing of the season, heralded to bring this new age of Chelsea strikers. Absolutely shocking he has been so far. Like, not just in terms of the touches, but minutes per shot. 53.9 minutes is basically the worst on this list. The only player with worse than this is Daka, who's kind of bit part Leicester player. But Lukaku should be top of this list. He should be up there with Kane.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they just haven't settled on a system which really suits him, I don't think, yet. And it's one of those, do Chelsea adapt to the striker, or does Lukaku have to take time to adapt to the system with Chelsea? It just doesn't seem to be working at all. But it's a real shame, because he should be banging in 20 goals a season, shouldn't he? He's that Absolutely. Kind of quality. And the Conte, he was that striker at Inter, and it's not quite happening at the moment. And it's not good for him, the fact that Havertz came in and played really well last night as well, because I don't think he's a guaranteed starter either. So.
Nope. Agreed. Just for anyone wondering, Weghorst, I realise, hasn't played 6 matches for Burnley, but this all these tables are done by minutes per XGI or minutes per shot, so it doesn't actually matter. It's just the last 6 matches they played all.
I think his stats, I mean, he only had 1 shot at the weekend, didn't he? He scored and he had just the 1 shot. He obviously got the assist as well. I think I was looking at it earlier on. I think across his 4 matches, I think he'd racked up about 9 shots, I think, which feels kind of okay, but it's Burnley and they're never going to be huge numbers, are they? So
no, what you rely on is the odd chance he gets, he converts, which looks like he's capable of doing.
He did look. His all-round play is good, and he contributes a lot. He brings others into play, and he's a good forward. I like him, but yeah, it's not going to be massive shot volume.
Yep, agreed. Right, no predictions this week because the games are still going on, and Potnoodle hasn't had a time to look at them. If you're wondering who the hell Potnoodle is, FPL_Potnoodle does all our predictions for us. Drop him a follow on Twitter to show your support. So we're going to go straight into the fixtures and the predictions. So we'll rattle through these. Southampton, Norwich, easy one to rattle off with straight away. We've all gone for 2-0. You, me and Mark, all 2-0 Southampton. It looks like a routine Southampton win, doesn't it?
Yeah, good at home. Southampton, as we touched on earlier. Stuart Armstrong back, who I like. Comfortable home win, I think.
It's quite remarkable.
Get our game week off to a good start.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite remarkable the predictions because none of us see these predictions before they'll get entered in. No. We've gone for quite a few similar, the same predictions. So Leeds, Spurs, we've all gone for 3-1. Spurs
It's interesting.
In this as well. So we've all backed to Leeds goal, but Spurs to win kind of fairly comfortably. Son and Kane, I think are gonna profit. Kulusevski as well. Is he someone that you might think about on a free hit?
I had a look at him, but that spot, that third attacking spot at Spurs, it feels like, because you've got Lucas Moura there, you've got Bergwijn who's fit as well now, and it just, don't know, I'm not totally sure if he starts that game at Leeds, so I would probably look elsewhere. If he's getting regular starts, then he could become an option. But I'm still not quite sure he's a definite starter in that one. So I'd probably err on the side of caution and look elsewhere. I think
if they'd won tonight, he'd be more likely. But again, with them losing and not being able to score, you've got to think maybe Moura comes in industrious more against Leeds. Brentford, Newcastle. This is the one we've all gone for something different on. I've gone for 2-1 Newcastle. Mark's gone for a 1-1, and you've gone for a 2-1 Brentford. So you're backing Brentford to get their first win in.
They're not playing well at all. But this kick starts a really important one for Brentford. I think they've got Norwich and Burnley after as well. So kind of season-defining 3 matches for them. I think Newcastle without Trippier. I don't know about Saint Maximin. I think he's kind of 50-50, isn't he? Newcastle don't score many away. I think they might nick it, but they need Tony fit for this one. But yeah, I mean, it's not one of those where I make a prediction and I'm full of confidence with it. This one could go. It's going to be a tight match, and it's quite cagey. Yeah, it wouldn't.
I think if Brentford lose this, I think they are really getting sucked in. And again, another shout out to my dad, who I think is probably listening tonight. Hasn't gone in the chat for a while. Dad, if you're in the chat, say hello to me and to everyone. But he backed Brentford to go down even when they were playing well. He just wasn't convinced. Yeah, okay. Didn't like what he saw for whatever reason. Although he did kind of ruin it last week, because he said to me that he thinks Watford are going to stay up. And I can't see that happening. So if Watford stay up and Brentford go down, Dad's on BlackBox next year. That's all I'm saying. Brighton Villa, easy one for all three of us. We've all gone for a 1-1 draw. Yeah. As you said, bad result for both our teams last week. I think we'll just cancel each other out. And you beat us it was Gerard's first game, wasn't it? When you beat us, but left it late. Yeah, I was at the game, and you played well. You played pretty well for large periods, and then I think you made a couple of changes which were a bit baffling on the day. Took both our wing backs off. And they had been the ones who had been causing problems, and I think they'll be good picks this week. Villa have got our issue is at the moment is players getting in behind of our fullbacks because they're so advanced, and Sarr at the weekend did really well against us. So I don't know what you'll play this weekend. If you play a wing back system and you've got Lamptey and Cucurella, I think they'll cause us problems, I think. So, but it feels like the kind of game where both teams would probably be content with a point. Yeah, I think so.
I think, after coming off the back one, just steady the ship a little bit. So yeah, I can see that being a draw, maybe 1-1 like we've all said.
Yep. Palace Burnley, we've all gone for a 2-1. So yeah. Double game with the Burnley players, but none of us have given much hope to the likes of Pope and me. I mean, Palace have rediscovered some goal scoring form, which is encouraging for them.
Tonight,
Burnley with two big results, but I think Palace at home should have enough for them. Yeah,
it doesn't fit. I mean, I know a lot of people are doubling up on Burnley defence, aren't they, for this one? But I look at these two fixtures, and I've got to be honest, I don't really see a clean sheet in it for them. I could be wrong on that, of course, but that was my initial instinct when I looked at them, that they would concede in both games. But they're coming off. They're going to be confidence is high now, isn't it, after these couple of wins? So you never know.
My dad is in the chat, Christopher Phillips. If everyone can say hello to him, I knew he'd be listening. I don't know if he'd be happy with the 1-1 that we predicted for Brighton. I don't know. What do you think, Dad? What's the score? What's the score to be? He's normally quite bang on with the Brighton predictions, so
be interesting to see.
Yeah. United Watford. I've gone for a 3-0 United, fairly comfortable. You've gone for a 2-0. Mark's gone for a 2-1. So Mark the only one back in Watford to score. You've got to fancy United in this Old Trafford. Watford beat them earlier in the season. Solskjaer's last game, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, United aren't exactly convincing at the moment, but the quality at the top end kind of can shine through and get you out of trouble a bit, can't it? I mean, you've got Fernandes, you've got Sancho, you've got really good creative players, and I just think they'll have a little bit too much for Watford, who are going to be on a bit of a downer after tonight's result as well, aren't they? Wouldn't surprise me if they scored though. I mean, I put 2-0 there, but a 2-1 wouldn't. Yeah, if they go there and get a goal. Nobody's surprised at that. No, I don't think. So.
I don't think that's why I'll be looking to lose De Gea. We've got my side probably pretty quickly. Okay. Everton City, interesting one. This obviously everyone going hard on City on the free hits. You and I are both back to 2-0 City. I don't think City are going to score bucket loads of goals in this game. I think it's at Goodison. Everton don't roll over there, and I know they've got some issues. Mark completely disagrees. Mark's gone for a 4-0 City in this. He is on the free hit, so I think there's a bit of bias. Maybe there's bias from us not being on the free hit. It's interesting to know.
Well, I had this one down as a 3-0, and then I reined it in a little bit just because the Goodison factor. It's they did very well in their last home game with Lampard when they bit. I know it's Leeds United. City are a completely different level. But yeah, I kind of went with 2-0. It wouldn't surprise me if 3-0, but I don't see them conceding anyway. And I think we're all in agreement with that, aren't we? So.
Yeah. And my dad's gone for a 2-1 Brighton win against Villa.
Okay. Yeah.
Wondering.
Yeah.
He's very optimistic, Dad. I like it. West Ham Wolves. You and I both gone for a 1-1. We're quite similar in our predictions. Actually, we've gone for quite a few the same. Again, I think both teams will cancel each other out. I think both are two good sides. It's battle. I mean, it's battle for the top four, but I think I'd be surprised if either team managed to make it in at this stage.
Feels like Europa, doesn't it?
It does. Feels like a Europa battle. Mark's back West Ham. He loves West Ham, so I'm not too surprised by that.
I had them at 2-1, and then I kind of had a little bit of a look at Wolves, and they've been pretty tight, really tight, haven't they, all season? And so I kind of went for the draw then. And it feels like, again, a bit like the Brighton Villa, both teams might maybe take a draw as well, coming off the back of recent results as well. So, but yeah, one all feels like that kind of match to me.
Yep. And then the final game is the second game for Burnley. I've gone for a 3-2 Leicester in this one, bit of a goal fest. Again, you've gone for a 2-1 Leicester, and Mark's gone the reverse. He's gone for a 2-1 Burnley. So neither of us backing clean sheets, but we have both backed some goals for Burnley in this. Yeah. So,
well, Leicester have got this issue defending set pieces, crosses into the box, haven't they? And that's what screams Weghorst this week. You got a 6'6" striker in the box, and even like at Wolves, as soon as Wolves are putting crosses into the box, Leicester just look a bit all over the place. So I think, I can see Burnley scoring in that one, but I do like Leicester going forward, and I think they'll cause problems for them. Yep,
absolutely. Take a look at the captain matrix. So, Gameweek 27, I've got the kind of two main standouts, I think, this week are Kane or Son versus Leeds. Weghorst then against Burnley, Leicester. Kind of your left field options might be De Bruyne or Sterling, Cancelo or playing Everton, Broja maybe versus Norwich, or Fernandes against Watford. But I think, realistically, the vast majority of captains going to be on Kane or Son or Weghorst. What are you leaning towards? Are you leaning towards favouring the double Gameweek player?
I think so. I mean, I haven't got Weghorst at the moment, but we'll talk about it when we look at our teams. But I'm probably going to bring him in for the Watford striker. Lose both Watford strikers and bring Weghorst in as part of that as well. It's just the only team who double, aren't they? So you immediately look at them, 180 minutes, hopefully for Weghorst across the two games. He's got 3 attacking returns in 4 appearances already. It's Burnley, but he might be on penalties. We don't know, but he might be, because obviously Wood's gone. Ashley Barnes isn't starting at the moment, so that would be a nice little bonus for him if he were to get a penalty over the 2 games. I'm kind of edging towards Weghorst, but having seen that Leeds get a result tonight and watched them against United at the weekend, a Spurs player as well is pretty appealing, isn't it?
As someone points out in the chat, of course, Weghorst isn't playing Burnley away. That's a mistake. He is Burnley. He's playing Palace away. I don't know how. There's always something, isn't there? Always something. What I do like about this, though, is in 28 and 29, with the announcement of the doubles, we do have some decisions to make. I think particularly in 28. So in 28, Salah v West Ham just looks so nailed on for the captaincy. But now we've got maybe a few other options. We've got Broja potentially against Villa and Newcastle, Rafinha against Leicester and Villa. Then some of the other left foot options, Kane, De Bruyne. These are single game weeks. So I think 28, the double game weeks aren't amazing, but
that's it. Yeah.
Do you favour a less amazing player, even though we've only got 2 games, compared to someone like Salah?
It's different this week because obviously Weghorst there, but Salah doesn't play this week. But when Salah comes into the equation, I would take 90 minutes of Salah over any of those players. I mean, Rafinha just isn't. If he was firing and he was looking at the top of his game, might be a different story with that, because they're playing 2 defences, which probably will give up chances. But I think Salah in that one looks like the standout for me at the moment. And Broja, I like him. I think he looks really good, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was benched in one of them either.
No,
I don't know if he's, they've got options there, haven't they? So I think, Salah for me. Probably this week, favour the double game week player. Next week, probably go back to Salah. And then game week 29 looks really interesting too. But it again, Salah, despite facing 2 tough defences, will probably be where we land on, won't he?
Yeah, and that's when we're going to see
exactly
as I was going to say. We're going to see the triple captain that people didn't play when they wildcarded using in 29.
Yeah,
and interesting, that's probably
yeah.
I'm not saying it might be the time when we look to bench boost, or maybe I do if I'm on the wildcard and you're not. And then it's all these kind of working out.
It's interesting.
It's all kind of. It can drive you crazy, can't it? Trying to work out, should I have played this here? When should I have done this? When should I have done that? You can see why people get so obsessed with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Captain's data for anyone sort of considering. Captain conversation over the last 6. Kane has 3 goals, 1 assist. Son has the reverse, 1 goal and 3 assists. Then you've got Weghorst there with 1 goal, 1 assist, but he hasn't actually played 6 games. So take that with a bit of a pinch of salt. But in terms of minutes per XGI non-penalty, so this is how likely it is your player is going to return, Kane's top. The least minutes per shot, 25.4. The best minutes per expected goal involvement. So the stats point to Kane over Son in this anyway.
Yeah.
I do think against Leeds, you've got this counter-attacking style. Maybe Son can benefit a bit more from that. You've got to take that into account. But
quite possibly.
I think if I had Kane, I'd probably be leaning towards Kane. In terms of the season data, we've mentioned Leeds, the bottom, the worst team in terms of their stats. Leicester and Palace, who Weghorst plays against, and then feature. Palace are pretty decent season data wise. 84.3 is right up there at the top. Leicester are terrible. So I think if you're looking at season data, he's more likely to return against Leicester than he is Palace. If you look at the last 6, actually Leicester are the worst. So even though Leeds have conceded so many goals, statistically Leicester are the worst defence in the league over the last 6. So again, this is why Weghorst, I think, is such an attractive option.
That's the fixture. I think you're looking at it. So even if he doesn't get anything at the weekend, I think you can go into that. We're all expecting Burnley to score, aren't we?
Yeah.
So you've just got to hope he's involved in that, and it's not another Ben Mee header that wins it 1-0. So, maybe you do if you own him. I don't know. But
the Palace game kind of feels like a bit of a bonus. And if he gets anything in that, it's fine. And interesting, it's a bit like Son and Kane. You kind of felt like, City was a bonus. If they come away with anything more than 2 in that, I'll take it going into Burnley, and it's the complete reverse. And that's what double game weeks give you, two opportunities.
Yeah, that's why it's so appealing. Yeah.
Yep. Right, let's talk about our teams, and we've got some free hit drafts to do. We're going to go just over 2 hours. Every week I say, there's no way we're going to hit 2 hours this week. Surely we'll do it. We're going to be just over, I think. But yeah, we've got 1,200 people watching in the chat, so we must be doing something right. Let's take a look at your team for the week. So no free hit for you. I'll just read out your team for anyone listening. So you've got Sanchez in goal, Livramento, Soufal and Cancelo, Bowen, Coutinho, Douglas Luiz.
Oh
dear.
Can we put my draft free hit tab up now, please?
Douglas Luiz, Rafinha, and then the Watford double up of King and Dennis away at Man United, and then Kane. So I would say your team is worse than a lot of teams that I've seen considering the free hit anyway.
Yeah.
Are you in any way tempted to pull the trigger?
No, I'm not.
That's really interesting.
It's damage limitation this week, I think. But my planned moves are at the moment to take out King and Dennis and bring in Weghorst and Brozier for -4. So then I've pretty much got the template free hit strike force with Kane, Weghorst and Brozier up front. I think my defence is okay this week. I think if we can get Livramento out and Soufal gets over this hernia issue, and then Cancelo, I think I'm fine. So it's midfield, which I feel was the real area of weakness with those 4 across there. But the problem is that, the free hit teams are going in for City. They're looking at Sancho, Fernandes. There's no point in me just bringing them in this week if I'm not free hitting. I've got to look at this as a bit of a longer term view. I think I feel okay with the defence and the forward line after the moves, but it's just that midfield, and I kind of need I need either a bit of pep roulette to kind of strike and to throw a curveball in there, or I need Everton to really kind of turn up and keep it respectable, I suppose. So we're not seeing a 3 or 4-0 or something like that. But yeah, I'm not very confident about it going in, but let's just hope the damage isn't too bad and I can save that free hit for a bit later.
And no plans to wildcard in 28?
No, I had a look at my team. Once I make those moves those forward moves, my team actually looks okay for 28. If I play 5 at the back and maybe try and bring in a Wolves defender next week, the team actually on paper looks all right because I've got Coutinho and I've got Rafinha who both double. I'd have Brozier who's got that double as well, and then I've got Kane, and so the team looks okay next week. It's just getting through this week, I think, which is.
See, I think that you're the perfect person to have on this when I'm talking about, using your free hit for the right reasons, not getting FOMO and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I look at that team and I think that team ain't going to do that well. But you're an elite player of this game. You've been in this situation many times before, and you're not doing it. And it's a single game unless you're wildcarding for triple Burnley. It's a single game week. You've got 11 players out. You'd only be free hitting for other single game week players. And I agree. I just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, won't we? I don't always get it right. It could go badly wrong this week. But I just think that I'm not just looking at 27 in isolation. I'm looking at a few weeks at a time and thinking, well, okay, I might go down 20 points, 30 points this week, but then I can pull it back possibly with a better time free hit for my team. But those who have got 2 free hits, they're in a great position. And if I had 2 free hits, I probably would be doing it this week.
Would you? I was going to be my next question.
Maybe, because if you've got 2 free hits and you've got a wild card or whatever, if you used it this week or whatever, you've got a bench boost, you've got loads of chips, this week might be a week that you do it. But I'm not worried. It's just that midfield. And if players like Sterling and Mahrez, Sancho, Son go big, then it might hurt a bit. But we can't have the ideal team every week, can we?
That's it. And Sterling, Mahrez aren't going to hurt you rank-wise because they're so low owned.
Hopefully, yeah. And you just got to try and nail the captain. And if I can do that, then hopefully the damage won't be so bad. But let's see what happens.
And you're going to go for Veg over Kane.
That's where I'm leaning at the moment. Yeah, double game week player. So.
Chat's very interesting. Chat is so divided between people who think you're mad.
I bet they're slating it.
They slate whatever team you put on the screen. Don't worry.
My teams have always been slated. I think when I played an unconventional wild card and bench boots last year, I think everybody was calling me a noob in the chat and all of that, and slating it. And it's just we've all got different ideas of strategies of the way to play, and that's the beauty of the game, isn't it? I'll look at that team and think, I can get by, and other people would. Be panicking about it and think, I've got a free hit. So it's just, but all I'd say to that, it's only the midfield, which is a real issue there, I think. So let's see what happens.
And you're going to be looking probably at teams in 6 or 7 weeks when you play your second free hit, and their teams are going to look rubbish because they've had to struggle to get a squad together.
We can't have the perfect team every week.
You can't have a free hit every week. That's exactly
yeah.
Yep.
So, but let's see what happens.
Speaking of free hits, this is the free hit team that you sent to me when I asked you for what you consider. So it's Pope and Gunn in goal. Luke Shaw, interesting. Simicast, Cancelo, Lamptey, Livramento. So I'm guessing Shaw, Cancelo, and Livramento you'd play. Son, Sterling, Mahrez, Sancho, Stuart Armstrong, who you mentioned earlier as well. Yeah. And then Kane and Weghorst up front, and I'm guessing Gelhardt on the bench. So yeah, a couple of. I mean, the thing is, all the teams are pretty template. You're gonna have United defender in there. You're gonna have United midfield. You're gonna have your 2 City. You're gonna have Kane and Weghorst. It's difficult to differentiate. Stuart Armstrong, sell him to people listening.
I always think he's so important to Southampton. I think when he's on song, I think he changes the dynamic of the team. I think he's really good at driving through the ball with the middle. He creates. And I wanted to I didn't want to just come up with this kind of template free hit now it could be Brozier. There's similar prices. You could stick him in and then go for a cheaper midfielder. But I like him. I think we'll probably stick him in the differentials this week on Scout. And he's a player I've always enjoyed when he's fit. So I went with that and a 5-man midfield. Sure, I put him in earlier today because I think he's been improving, but I'd need to watch tonight's game back and see how he's performed in that, because obviously there's that bit of rotation threat with Tellez, so I need to see how he's played. But that could easily switch to a Maguire or something like that if you did want to back United's defence and you wanted somebody a bit more nailed on, I suppose. I like Lamptey. I think that he's going to get, I think he'll ask plenty of questions if he starts with Luca Dean. So yeah, generally a pretty template team, but only two Burnley. I didn't feel comfortable doubling up, and Cornet missed tonight, didn't he? So yeah, I'm not so sure about that one. But yeah, I think if I played my free hit this week, it would be pretty similar to that.
And you've gone for Sterling in this over De Bruyne. You mentioned you might plump for De Bruyne, because of funds. Yeah,
yeah. I had De Bruyne in there, and I was going to take the screenshot and send it in with that, but then because of my team value isn't massive, some people might be able to do that. I'm sure they will be able to actually. But yeah, I probably would go De Bruyne over Sterling if I had a bit more money in the bank.
Yep. This is my team, so everyone can laugh at my team now. I have done with yours. De Gea in goal, Cancelo, Dean, Livramento, Salah, Fernandes, Foden, Bowen, Ramsey, Jimenez and King. So my plan is to move Salah out because I'm going to be wildcard next week anyway, bring in Son, and then move King if he's injured up to Weghorst for a -4. So that gives me 11. Ben Johnson on the bench, probably with a 1 point if I need it. But the only player that really worries me about not owning is Kane in this. I know that I don't have Sterling and Mahrez, but like I said, the ownership's low on those players anyway. I wouldn't captain Kane anyway. I think I would stick on Weghorst, mostly for that Leicester game like we discussed. And, I've got 2 United players who in place. I've got Foden, got a City attacker. I've got a team. I don't need to free hit this side, I don't think. So, yeah.
And Foden might be the City midfielder, which comes out on top this week. I mean, that's it. If he starts...
I think he's benched.
Yeah, you might be right on that. But it's hard to call, isn't it? So we can kind of lean towards that, can't we? But see what Pep says in his press conference. I'm sure he'll be as unhelpful as ever, but you never know. But no, I look at that team and I think you're okay there. I think after you've made your moves anyway. So
yeah, it's just Kane and I think Kane is someone that I would potentially look to captain if I had him versus Weghorst. But I think I'd still go for the double game week player anyway. And with Son there, I hope the basic one I'm looking at is, does Fernandes match Kane? Fernandes at home to Watford, Kane versus Leeds. I think it's going to be pretty close.
It's not clear cut, is it at
all?
Not clear cut. So Fernandes has been. I don't know how he played tonight. I didn't see the game, but he's been doing pretty.
They drew, I think 1-1. Did they?
Was it 1-1? I saw Elanga scored just before we came on, I think, and I didn't see the full time score, But yeah, no, I think Fernandes has got back-to-back double-digit hauls, hasn't he? He seems to be settling into this system quite well. So, home against Watford, wouldn't surprise me if he outscored Kane.
Yep. Everyone's been quite nice about my team, Tom. It's just yours. Sorry.
Well, I'm not surprised after putting on mine first. So couldn't have got any worse, could it?
I know, that's very true. My free hit team, very similar to yours, to be honest. Forster and Foster in goal. I've gone for me. I've gone for the Burnley defender. You had Pope, so again, not too much different. And then Cancelo and Livramento with Veltman and Tsimikas on the bench. And then Mahrez, Sterling. I've kept Fernandes in and Son as well. And then just had Ramsey as a sub. And then Kane, Weghorst and Broja. So a 3-4-3 for me.
Good team.
I just think it's not that exciting compared to other free hit teams, but it's pretty much the best you can do.
I think sometimes, I'm always one. I don't like to stick to the template. I like to throw in something to try and make it feel a bit more exciting. I don't know if it's because I've been playing the game for so long, but sometimes the template is strong for a reason, isn't it? And you don't want to differentiate just for the sake of it. And it does feel a lot of the free hit teams I'm seeing this week do look very good, and so. And you've got to think in the grand scheme of things that it feels very similar on our little bubble, doesn't it, on Twitter? But in terms of the whole game, there's some massive differentials in there, isn't there? Even the City boys you're talking about there and their ownerships. If they fire, that's massive for your rank, isn't it? So.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I say good luck to anyone who's free hitting, but I don't actually mean it because I don't want you to overtake me. But you know what I mean. It's a polite thing to say, isn't it?
Sure.
Different to us though, Mark is free hitting this week. So Mark is actually sent me a team which he is looking to do. So this is interesting because there is a few different players here. So he's gone for Forster in goal, the double up on Burnley defenders, Tarkowski and me, and Creswell. He's got in defence.
He's in my scout squad actually. Which is this afternoon. I like that. Yeah.
Very interesting one. Then he's gone 5 in midfield with Mahrez, Sterling, Foden. So he's kept Foden in that. Son and Sancho, who again is quite popular on these things. And then Kane and Weghorst up front. He's gone for Weghorst captain. And he's got Broja first sub. I'm guessing he's got him in case Foden misses out. But he's going a little bit different. It's not crazy different. Like he's still got Mahrez, Sterling, Kane, Son, Weghorst, all these guys, but he's differentiated it a little bit from some of the template teams that I've seen. Yeah,
I mean it's a good team. I quite like that. I suppose the 3 City midfielders means no Cancelo. I don't think there's anything wrong with going in without a United defender, so I think that's absolutely fine. I mean, neither of us said that Burnley were going to keep a clean sheet, but I suppose there's a bit of a chance of a set piece threat, isn't there, against Leicester and stuff like that? So you never know. Tarkowski might be the one next game week to pop up with a goal. But yeah, loads to like about that team. But no, it looks very good.
Broja on the bench is surprising. Mark loves Broja.
That's going to hurt, isn't it? If you braces on Friday and you've got that wait till the praying somebody misses out. So
it's a Friday deadline, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. Yeah, and the Southampton's the first game up on Friday night, isn't it? And then we've got, Spurs is the early kickoff on Saturday as well, which is another thing to factor in with Leeds. I mean, I know both teams have played tonight, but Leeds have had a really demanding game at Liverpool. They've obviously played United on the Sunday. Now they've got to play Spurs on the Saturday in the early kickoff. I mean. It's going to be a big start to the week with Southampton and Spurs at first, isn't it? So,
absolutely. Right, we're nearly done. Just the ticker, Fantasy Football Scout ticker. Southampton are now top of the ticker. Norwich and their double. And then Watford, Burnley, Leeds. It's a great run of games for Southampton. Like I said, they've performed amazingly well, especially from an attacking sense, despite tough fixtures. And now they've got a good run. So I think you have to consider the likes of Armstrong, Broja, Ward-Prowse. These are guys who you could bring in, for actual transfers rather than just free hits. Newcastle are second. They got back-to-back doubles in 28 and 29. So I wonder if St. Maximan's going to be fit. Maybe even someone like Chris Wood could become a factor. Wolves are then third. Really nice run for them, which is why there's been so much investment. West Ham, then a double, then Everton, Leeds, Villa. Really nice. Down the bottom of the list is United, right down the bottom now. So obviously a good game against Watford at home. But then City, Tottenham, Liverpool, and then Leicester. So I think particularly defensive-wise, the likes of Maguire, De Gea, you're not going to want to keep those going forward. And I'm going to look to jump off to Fernandes as quickly as I can. And West Ham as well. Tough games coming. A lot of people have sold Bowen already on wild cards because they haven't got any doubles on the horizon. And they've got Liverpool, Spurs, Villa, these are, and Wolves. These are quite good defensive sides. So no guarantee of lots of returns for them. But yeah, it's interesting. I think from 28 we start to see some real fixture changes. Chelsea in particular. I mean, look at Chelsea's run from 28: Burnley, Newcastle, Norwich, Brentford. Great time to invest in that.
We need Reece James. We need maybe an attacker or a midfielder. Not an attacker, but like an attacking player, like a Mount or something, or Ziyech. Hopefully, I don't know how bad the injury is, but it'd be great to have him back as another option as well, wouldn't it? So
it would be
just to capitalise on those fixtures.
Yep, absolutely. Just before we finish, Green Arrow charity. I'm just looking something up. Mark and I donate our money at the end of the month for this. Oh, I can't find it. We've donated about 200 quid now, I think, between us for this. But essentially, we donate every time we get green arrows in FPL. It's great because Mark is doing so badly this season. He's actually getting a lot of green arrows at the moment. So his outlay is actually increased quite a lot to this charity. So that's really nice. But if anyone is interested, there's a link in the description below. I plug this every week. It's a way of feeding, kind of stuffing people around the world. So it's a really nice thing to get involved in. Mark and I donate a £5 every time we get a green arrow. You can donate as little as 65p, and it's all set up by FPL Greece, who's a great member of the community as well and someone to follow. So if you're interested in that, as I said, links in the description below. Final thing, Tom, 2 hours, 10 minutes. You're an absolute trooper. Sorry to keep you up so late. The final thing to talk about is the North v South match. Saturday 28th of May 2022. It's going to be held in Birmingham. Loads of people from the community are getting involved in that. Hindu Monkey, Gianni, FPL Raptor, loads of players. I am supposed to be playing in it, but I've got a doctor's appointment tomorrow to see if I've got a hernia or not, which I definitely do have. So I can't imagine I'm going to be playing in this, but I will definitely be there. Anyway, but if you're interested in that, you can purchase tickets. All the money goes to Street Child United, a charity, and you can check out the description of that. You can check that in the description below. Tom, I'm going to let you go to bed. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been amazing to have you on finally, and I'll see you at work tomorrow bright and early.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. It's been good to catch up. So good luck everyone in 27.
Perfect. See you all.